Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Ben Reeves.
Hello.
And the wonderful Lord Miller himself.
That's my name.
That's Matt Miller. You got it, buddy.
First name Lord.
Hey, new cover story week.
It sure is.
Exciting. That's why the three of us are assembled. We're going to be talking about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, which is the new cover story for Game Informer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very exciting. So we'll dive into that. Hey, for Christ's sake, we went to Nintendo to play it for a long time. We have a lot to say.
Pretty cool.
Then after that, talking about, what is this? New game? Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Breakpoint. And then Andrew Reiner and Reeves and I are going to break down some new controllers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad you're talking about that. That's cool. I think there's a lot of people who maybe might be in the market for some of these high-end fancy controllers.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes thing. Like Reiner reviewed the new Astro controller, and he's like, "Oh, we could talk about it on the podcast." And I think I was the main voice of reason. I'd argue in the room, being like, "Do people want to hear us talk about controllers?" And it seemed like the room's like, "Yes, you idiot." So I'm curious if the readers and listeners and viewers will enjoy it.
Okay, well here's my argument for why, right? Is that like I think we work in an office with a bunch of video game accessories everywhere, and so we get a little bit immune to the excitement around that stuff. But some of these controllers are really cool and do some pretty cool stuff, and you can set them, customize them in neat ways, and they feel interesting to use. And we can kind of talk about that.
Get some recommendations out there. That sounds fun. Let's see. Then very fun community emails. The best ever, right, Reeves?
Oh, wow.
Best batch.
Just
Hang
wait.
on. Hey, whoa, was that sarcasm, sir?
No.
Okay, they're
I'm
really
not
good.
Kyle.
Okay, thank
Ben
Christ.
is thrilled about those emails.
Then, back half of the show. This is very exciting. This is thrilling. We have a deep dive on the development of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1.
Yeah.
Raven Software game. Very exciting.
Going back in time.
Hell yeah, 2006. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But we have Keith Fuller, who's the lead designer in that game, Aaron Sanfilippo, gameplay programmer, and Allison Salmon, the tech programmer for that game. They've all since left Raven, so they're free to talk a little bit about what it was actually like. They have glowing things to say. It's fun to just take a deep dive, talk about their favorite moments from the game's development, their favorite characters, their favorite character attacks, what it was like to actually be within Raven, working with Marvel, working on the X-Men Legends games.
It's so weird to think, I mean, that the last of those games came out, 2009? So it's been a decade.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Right? And it's crazy to me to think about, I mean, those were really fun games at the time. And I have great memories of sharing them with like kids in my family and with buddies who came over on the weekend to play and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now the landscape of the Marvel universe is so different just in this past decade.
So much more popular, I would say.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like in a way that's hard to quantify. I mean, we're not coming off. We're still watching Avengers Endgame just rack up money like no property ever has.
I'm still listening to Spoiler Discussion podcast every day.
It's really cool to follow that stuff and to see this grand experiment that Marvel has done there, kind of culminating in that project, and then to have this game coming out now that's a kind of an arcadey, actiony experience. I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Just real quick, just clarifications on the interview coming up. They say MUA a lot. If you're confused, that's Marvel Ultimate Alliance. That's apparently what they called it, but it originally had a different name, which they reveal in the interview. Also, if you're not into Marvel or, that old game or anything, I think the interview is worth listening to just because they talk a lot about Activision during that era. Mm-hmm. They share their thoughts on Raven becoming a Call of Duty support studio. And I think maybe the most interesting part of the interview was just talking about the messaging they got from Activision about like, hey, Raven, cool it with new IP for a while. How about you go ahead and support Call of Duty? Like that transition, I think is really fascinating for that studio.
And the people doing the interview are very handsome.
Oh, that's very true. Reeves joins me on that interview.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh.
You remember
that?
that?
Did you forgotten that?
I forgot.
Yeah.
I just remembered how handsome they were.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Black Order. Mm-hmm. Very exciting. New cover story. We flew out to Nintendo's U.S. headquarters over there in beautiful Washington State and got to play, I was thinking about just for tweets and stuff, like how we quantify it, hours and hours of the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were there all day and played a bunch and...
that was most of the day. It's
just playing the game. Yeah,
which is pretty rare for a cover story.
We did a lot of our interviews in other settings, and because we were talking with people in Japan at one point, and we were talking to the Marvel people, and so we did a lot of the interview stuff happened at another time, which freed up the day that we were at Nintendo to just be like, hey, let's let's try out this character and let's try out this character.
Yeah,
So
I don't think I've tried Wolverine yet. I'm gonna give him a whirl this time, take some notes, see how it goes. Yeah. I mean, you just talking about the structure for this cover story is a good insight into just how strange this project is. You know, and trying to balance out what's Marvel, what's Nintendo, what's Koei Tecmo, and then Team Ninja as a subset within Koei Tecmo. Just that communication is bizarre. We're talking about like, well, who's designing the gameplay? And they're like, well, it's kind of a collaboration of the three companies. It's a very Nintendo message, which is that confusing thing of like, who's responsible for what? How do all these entities get together to make, of all things, a new Ultimate Alliance game? It's bizarre.
It is bizarre, right? I mean, it's bizarre that the game's back in the first place after such a long absence. But you know, when you look at it, it has the same feeling that for me when X-Men Legends first came out. There's this sense. I remember when that game came out, this sense of like, why hasn't anybody done this before? Like, this is so obvious. You have a stable of all these superhero characters, and they're super fun, and action RPGs is a clear fit for what you could do with them and do something that's kind of like Diablo.
Yeah.
And if anything, that sentiment is even more true now for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, right? Like, the idea that somebody else hasn't already released this game in the midst of all the fervor around Marvel stuff right now is kind of wild.
Yeah, it's weird.
And they re-released the original 1 and 2, I believe, but even that's been delisted, then it's back up. Like, that path is all over the place. I'm trying to figure out how this project came to be. It's like the Activision handoff is still a little nebulous. Nebulous.
Yeah,
Move on, please.
It's not entirely clear, and like a lot of business related decisions, that's something that they weren't ready to shine a big spotlight on, right? It ultimately was that like, well, you know, this is a Marvel property and we wanted to bring it back.
And Nintendo's publishing it, and it is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch.
It's exclusive to Switch, which, by the way, I think Switch is a really good fit for this game, and for its tone and for what you can do with it. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more. But
and I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's a limited exclusive thing.
I don't think so. I mean, it is literally a Nintendo-published game.
Nintendo's putting work into this,
right.
So it's not coming anywhere else.
As for why it's a Koei Tecmo game, though, the Nintendo representatives, which, by the way, it was just fun to see, like Bill Trennan, who you've probably seen out there doing a lot of translating for Miyamoto in the Treehouse, was just fun to hear him talk about a Marvel game. Just like, what is this world anymore?
It was weird.
But their explanation was like, oh, they reached out to Koei Tecmo. Nintendo did because of their relationship with Koei Tecmo developing games like Hyrule Warriors, which they had a positive experience with. And like, well, you need action. Let's go for Koei Tecmo.
Right. They wanted the action expertise that Team Ninja brought to the table, and I think Team Ninja was, when we talked with them, they were expressing that over there in Japan, on their team, they had a lot of enthusiasts for Marvel stuff, and so they were excited about that possibility. They put together a pitch of like, hey, we think we can do honor to what has come before, but we can bring our own like action sensibilities to this, and there's particular things about the gameplay that tap into that kind of like faster action vibe and that kind of thing. And then all three of these different major entities worked together to make sure everything was working well. So, for instance, Marvel contributed a writer who...
Mark Sumerak.
Exactly. Who...
Best buds.
Who brought in a certain element of faithfulness to the source material, right? That I think by their own admission, Team Ninja didn't feel like they were going to be able to deliver on in the same way that
Marvel's
they could.
handling a lot of the story stuff, which is nice. So you actually talked to Team Ninja. I wasn't in on that interview, just over the phone here, but like, did you get a sense like about, is this like literally the Neo team moving over to this, or who within Team Ninja is making this?
I didn't get a super clear sense of that. I mean, for people who aren't in the know, I mean, Team Ninja is a part of Koei Tecmo, and so I think you'll hear like Nintendo in a lot of ways almost uses that interchangeably. Like they talk, and that was a little confusing to us when we were first there. But it's Koei Tecmo, it's Team Ninja. Like they're the people doing the nuts and bolts of development. As far as individuals on that project, other than the couple of people that we quote in the story, it's hard to say the specifics of who that is and which team it is at, other than it's the Team Ninja guys.
Right.
But yeah, I think whatever this game emerges as, in terms of development talent, I think we need to give credit where credit's due to Team Ninja. I mean, Nintendo is certainly doing what Nintendo does and bouncing ideas back to the developers who they're working with.
Even like some of the writing in it, I know that could be coming from Marvel, but they wouldn't even answer like who's writing the item descriptions. But even like the move descriptions are pretty funny, and it's like, is this a Treehouse thing? Is this a Marvel Wit thing? Like, who can we attribute this to?
Yeah, that's tricky because Nintendo has such in a positive way, an aggressive role in doing good localization work, right? And so it's hard to speak to some of those specifics other than to say that, like, we know that all of these different companies were involved in the creation of this game. And as fans, we just get to be excited that, like, hey, finally this franchise, after like a decade of being gone,
it's crazy,
is coming back.
And why do you say best buds for the writer over at Marvel, Reeves?
Oh, because we're best friends.
Oh, I see. Not literally, but you have some history. You were an intern at Marvel.
I brag about it all the time, but I worked for Marvel back in like the early 2000s as an intern, and like Mark, who's writing the game, was my boss. And so,
really?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to like loop back around, and I reconnected with him via email, so it's kind of cool.
So you interviewed him, right? Talking about the game, Mark?
Yeah, we did. It was kind of a short online email thing, so it wasn't like a detailed sit down, but we included some of the quotes in the cover story.
Oh, nice. What was the most insightful thing you learned from that interview?
I got the sense, both from talking with him and with talking with the Marvel Games guys who we spoke with, of the enthusiasm behind this. I mean, that was the presiding emotion that emerged out of that. I mean,
to me, that reads like, this game's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's how it comes across. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I don't think that this is something that they just sort of, that's like some throwaway thing for them. I think that they really are genuinely excited. I think part of Marvel's success, I mean, this is taking a step back from just this game, but part of Marvel's success in the last couple decades, really, with their properties, whether you're talking about comics or movies or games or whatever, is that there is a focus on that enthusiasm of bringing that like, we are excited about our own characters. We are excited about the stories we're telling, the properties we're pursuing. When we do a Spider-Man video game with Insomniac and you talk to those guys at Marvel about it, they're like wildly stoked about it. And likewise,
they should be, yeah.
Well, likewise with this Marvel project, the idea that Marvel Ultimate Alliance was coming back, everybody I talked to over there just gets, I don't know, like,
they were crying.
They were really enthusiastic, and they were talking about, like, when they first locked down some of the deal around it, like the idea that at the table, I mean, maybe this is an exaggeration, I don't know, I wasn't there, but that they were literally like standing up and clapping at the table when they like locked down the idea that they were going to get to do this with Nintendo. And so
that's nice. I wonder if it's one of those situations too where it's like, maybe it couldn't have come back in a Bayonetta style unless it was for Nintendo. Yeah. The Nintendo muscle really bringing it through. But
the sense that I got, and again, we talk about this a little bit more in the cover story, and I kind of go through the odd team up that resulted in this team up game, that I think Nintendo was actively in the lead up to the Switch launch, was actively reaching out to potential partners and talking about them, like, hey, this is what our new console is going to do. We think it's going to be pretty cool. It's got this flexibility to be portable or be on your TV, and kind of making that broader pitch. And that it was kind of in that phase that Marvel and Nintendo made this decision to, like, we should do Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Because Marvel's also reaching out in a big way. You can see from Iron Man VR, you know, obviously Avengers coming up from Square and stuff. Right. Like, they're making this big push into gaming.
So exactly. They obviously had a bunch of other properties that they were pursuing, right?
Yeah.
But Marvel Ultimate Alliance was one that either they knew they wanted to do and they hadn't found a home for it yet, or maybe they hadn't thought about bringing it back, but then this opportunity came up and they were like, oh, let's try this. However you do the math, the reality is that it kind of emerged as this thing that, like, hey, you know, with what you're describing about the Switch, this sounds like it'd be a really cool fit. And I got to say, I kind of agree. Like, the game is a good fit for what that console does and the audience of that console.
Local multiplayer works well on it.
Local multiplayer, there's online multiplayer, there's, you know, you take it with you on the go, you can pop it back onto your TV, you can sit and play it on the couch. All that kind of stuff, that sort of social engagement stuff, is stuff that I think about with the Switch.
You can even play it 4-player on the Switch screen, which we did.
the undocked,
which is very
just
challenging.
to see what would this actually
Undocked,
look like if we just set it on a table and tried to play it.
it's
Believe it or not, it was chaotic.
very hard to
but
tell where you
technically
are.
doable. Also, didn't chug. I was expecting it to
No,
chug
it
a little bit.
doesn't
There's a
chug at
lot
all.
going on that screen, and I was
there's
impressed.
indeed.
So a lot of people wrote into podcastgameformer.com with some questions about the game. I think we'll answer a lot of them throughout the course of our conversation here. Some people were confused about is this canonical with Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2? We asked Nintendo that, and they're like, we're not really sure. But even looking at it, it's like, Nick Fury's black now, so
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think it's safe to assume this is completely different. And also just talking about the influence of the MCU, because this is the first really, I guess, Ultimate Alliance 2 was right on the heels. But this is the first really in a post-MCU explosion saturated world, right? And so there's a lot of influence seeping into the game.
I am a fan of paying attention to things like the canon of something and trying to track story. So I'm just going to put this out there, and I know that it's not going to be satisfying for a lot of people out there, but it's the truth. I think you're chasing a fool's errand in this instance if you're trying to lock this into some particular continuity or connect it to a particular storyline. It just isn't that.
Well, who's out there though, who is really into the first two stories?
I don't know. That's my point.
They're out there. They wrote into podcastgameformer.com. Yeah, they are out there.
To those people, I'm saying that I think that what we saw of the story is that this is going to be a fun story about the Infinity Stones. It's a retelling, and so it's not going to be trying to redo the beats of the movie stuff that we recently saw in theaters. But it's also not going to be an exact retelling of what was in the comics with the Infinity Gauntlet storyline or any of that stuff. It's kind of its own thing, but with the familiar beats of hey, Thanos is here, and we got the Black Order, and we got the different stones, and there's a gauntlet, and
there's a
all
lot
that
of
stuff's there.
There's a lot of cues from the movie in there specifically. I mean, Nebula's design is almost 1-to-1 with the movies. There's little things early on, you start out the game with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Drax makes some reference to Star-Lord, your terrible music, stuff like that. They're going for the impossible vibe of we're going to be James Gunny without really being James Gunn, which Telltale also tried, and it's close enough.
I think their ship is called the Milano as well in the game, which was a movie thing. So that's kind of neat to see that kind of stuff. And the nice thing too about it not being tethered to previous games is anybody can jump into this. There's like you said, Marvel's more popular than ever. There's probably a lot of new fans who never played those old games. They don't have to worry about 1 and 2 or what happened in there.
Right. Also, I was really thankful because we went on this cover story trip obviously before we saw Endgame. It's okay, the Black Order, how much are they really going to matter in a post-Endgame world? But it's nice now, without spoilers, to be the Black Order is still in Endgame to some extent, right? My boy Ebony Maw is still in there, getting the job done. Love the look of that
They're
dude.
in the comic, too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're relatively recent comic creations.
They are.
I don't even think they existed when Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 came out.
Yeah.
So.
Which, by the way, we can sort of pitch out there something kind of cool that we are going to be doing later this month is that we asked Marvel, and with their knowledge of what they've done with this story, to put together a comics reading list for us. And so we're going to have that by later this month. They're kind of pulling that together. And we'll post it online. Yeah, we've seen some of what that's going to be. And I'm kind of stoked to have that out there because I know for me and probably for the fans who are asking those kinds of questions, that'd be cool to be able to come into the game and know that I should read this run of Avengers first,
right?
And that's going to help me really understand this this particular arc of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's something that we've got coming up.
So just setting the scene for the start of the game, at least, right?
Yeah.
It's Guardians. They go aboard a Kree vessel. You fight Ronan the Accuser there and stuff. They have all the
I'm
Infinity
impressed that you know all these words
Thank
and things.
you. Look at
You've
this.
learned a lot, Ben.
It's honestly, I'm not a comic guy, but I'm
right.
an MCU guy, and you guys are both comic guys. We meet in the middle now.
Well, that's the thing is those movies are basically the comic book form brought to the movie.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So
I would imagine they're adapting the comic books,
well,
yes.
but I mean, in more than just a normal adaptation from a book to a movie.
Just the spirit and the nerdiness
the
and
spirit, the nerdiness,
interconnectedness.
all that stuff. So if
Yeah.
you're a fan of the Marvel movies, you're probably a secret comic fan.
Yeah.
You just don't know it.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it.
You should probably check out some comic books. You might like them.
Yeah, and we have that list coming up later. But anyways, so you're on board the Kree ship. All the Infinity Stones are there.
Yeah.
Black Order's there. The Guardians, believe it or not, try to steal the stones because they're little stinkers.
Well, they're kind of trying to be helpful, right?
Yes.
They're not trying to like do bad things. They're trying to save the universe.
Right. The stones, something happens. Stones all scatter across the universe, and then the rest of the game is like a race against the Black Order to try and get all the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Which will lead you to Raft, which is like chapter 2 of the game, and that's when like when you go to Earth, it's just like bam, 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 character intros, and like they do a very Borderlands style thing where every time a new character comes on the screen, it'll pause, give their name, and then also give like a brief description, which is helpful because when they're throwing so many characters,
there's a lot of characters. I mean, to be fair, that's also that thing you describe as a Borderlands style intro is also a thing that is very common in the comics, right? They'll do the same thing at the early part of a run, like a new number 1, right, of a given series. You'll often have that vibe where you like the first time a character pops up, you'll get that kind of quippy. This is this person's name, who they are.
Short little bio,
yeah. Right. So it's like Nebula. It's like amazing fighter. Gamora's worst headache or something like just this quick thing. It's usually the first thing is like a factual thing. Then second quick sentence is a joke. Like that's the way you're introduced to all these characters.
But suffice to say that, I mean, we didn't see a lot of the story really, despite all the stuff we were playing. Some of the stuff we were playing what were the actual story missions, but we also played some of these like the kind of trials that you go into in the game, and so that took up a bunch of time. So we didn't go super far in. I think the takeaway for me was just with the Infinity Stones having been scattered across the universe, they have opened themselves up to allowing the game to go wherever they want it to go.
Yeah, it definitely seems people are asking about like, you know, how the story compares versus Ultimate Alliance 1 versus 2. And it seems much more like journeying across the galaxy, kind of Marvel's greatest hits thing. So a little bit more in the one vein than like a focused Civil War style like conflict like the second one. Yeah. But characters people are interested in.
Yeah.
They said they're going to be well over 20 was their weird way of phrasing it. And they said, we're not talking 21 characters.
I mean, we
here.
run a roster of all the known ones in the issue. And off the top of my head here, I can't just like list them off for you. But there's a lot of characters in there. And a lot of it's a nice mix of the heavy hitters who you would expect have to be there. You know, a Wolverine, a Hulk.
Well, even
Captain
Wolverine
America.
is exciting, you know, after
Absolutely. I don't mean to imply
Infinite,
they're not. In fact, I think that those characters are going to be the ones that get a lot of the big play. But you have those heavy hitters. A lot of the heavy hitters, interestingly, are ones that are now heavy hitters in terms of popularity that weren't when they showed up in previous games, right? Like the last, I maybe some reader can write in and tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Carol Danvers was in one of the earlier Marvel games, as Miss Marvel. Exactly. That was before they made that change, and she became Captain Marvel, and she got the new outfit, and all that kind of stuff. And now she's in this game, and she's a lot of fun to play. But I suspect she'll be one of the more popular characters picked, just because she's really big on the scene right now.
And now we also have Miss Marvel, which is a character not reading the comics. I'm like, who is this person? Sure. It seems like Mr. Fantastic. I can't quite wrap my mind around what her abilities are.
Yeah, kind of. She's a newer character in the last 5 years, I want to say she was created, but she is... she was created by the Terrigen Mist, if you know what that is, which is an Inhumans thing, and you don't need to worry about it.
Okay.
It's a mist that awakens latent powers within you, let's say. And so she does have some, it's very Mr. Fantastic-like powers, where she's very stretchy, or she can blow herself up, kind of embiggen herself, make her fist really large. They
literally use the word embiggen in the description, which is a lovely Simpsons call-out, I'd imagine.
Embiggen. I think that character is also... gotten a lot of attention for a couple of reasons. One is that she's kind of a fangirl character. Literally, she is.
She's a fan of Captain Marvel, which is why she took the name Mrs. Marvel.
And so she's constantly talking in terms like she's a fangirl, except she's a straight up superhero herself.
Little Ant-Man in the MCU towards Captain America, that type of relationship.
She's also, I think, has gotten a lot of press because I think Marvel is very interested in speaking to all the different audience members that they have out there, and Miss Marvel was, I think, the first like Muslim character who headlined her own book.
Yeah.
And so like I think that there's been a lot of attention there around her, but she's in there and she's a lot of fun to play.
And I'm also reading with my foresight every YouTube comment screaming, you referenced Mr. Fantastic several times. Are they in the game? We didn't see anything about the Fantastic Four.
I mean, they could be there. We didn't see everybody. But
we asked them and they were very cagey.
They were.
Yes. Also, somebody asked, like, hey, can you play as the villains? Like in the old games, you'd be able to play as the villains a fair amount. We didn't see any ability to play as the Black Order or anything like that.
No, we didn't see that. We did see Venom.
Right.
And so Venom is a boss fight at one point that we did.
Yes, but didn't see Thanos in action or anything like that.
But yeah, there's a lot of those big heavy hitter characters, whether they're new to being popular or not. But then they also have a lot of characters who are maybe not super in the limelight right now, that I also think could be a lot of fun to play.
Which is interesting because it's that weird thing of like, why is Marvel, I'd imagine, including these characters in the game? Like back in the day, it was like, why is Rocket Raccoon in Marvel vs. Capcom 3? And it's like, oh, I see. They had some plans ahead, you know?
They
and
had
so
plans.
Every character, including this roster, is a little thing of like, all right, Marvel thinks this character is important, so it's easy to read too far into it, but that's part of the fun of a game with so many characters.
I mean, I counted it this morning. Just on our cover, we have 20 characters.
Really?
Oh, really? Okay.
That's cool.
I guess several of those are the bad guys, but still, there's a lot of Marvel storylines and characters going on here. And so going back to your point, there's times that in order to just get you the options to play with them, when you get to the raft, which is I think like the second level, you just get like 10 character intros like right in a row. They're just all there for some reason, and they don't care. That's what's sort of funny. I mean, the storytelling's fun, but they also are prioritizing the idea that like, hey, you know, you want to play as the Hulk, we're going to make sure you can play as the Hulk as quickly as possible.
Even if it's overwhelming. Yeah,
like,
introduced.
So you go to the shield point and you change the team out. And it's got the thing that, you know, you get a particular team, and if it's like, oh, well, these are all guys that are on the Defenders, then you get a special attribute bonus.
Right. And some of them are like, hey, wisecracking warriors, original Avengers, heavy hitters, women of Marvel, like the different matchups. The way that Nintendo explained it is like the game's all about creating the ultimate team, right? And so if you can find those sweet synergies, then you're better off as a unit there. Also, because a lot of people were asking, the game will have alternate skins. We didn't get to dive too much into those, but they will exist in there in some capacity. Who knows if it's going to be DLC or what? They weren't talking about any of that stuff. Gameplay. What's it out to you guys?
It's very reminiscent of those old games. It's very, I would say, light and sugary. Like it's very colorful and bombastic, and like it's very easy to play game. Kind of.
Especially on the lower difficulties, right?
We said arcadey. I think that's very appropriate here. I would say even mindless, although I know there are like harder difficulties that will challenge you some, but
so
it's very easy to just get it together with a bunch of friends and just like kind of button mash it.
On the difficulty thing, there's going to be 3 different difficulties that they're outlining right now, where it's basically, let's see if I can find those exact names, but it's easy, medium, and hard, and the hard mode will unlock once you finish the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are building it around the idea that it's very much pick up and play. You always have 4 characters on screen, and so if I'm playing by myself and you come into the room, you can just kind of grab a controller and hit start and start playing, and then when you're done, you leave. And it's super simple that way. You never talk because we don't like to talk at all. Yeah, it's very straightforward, but that I think it's kind of what it should be. I mean, if it was much more complicated than what it is there, I'm not sure it would be the kind of thing that you could just be like, you know, sitting together at a party and like having some drinks and eating some snacks and playing this thing and talking about what happened this week on your favorite TV show.
So you have like
that kind of game.
Yeah. You have like your special moves, which max out at 4 is what they're communicating at this point, unlike the old games. But the part that like you talk about the gameplay being pretty arcadey, at the same time, I don't think I was prepared for like the actual underlying RPG systems. That was a surprising amount of the trip. Was like, let's walk through how all of these different progressions work, how the system works, the ISO 8 system. Miller, can you give a high level version of what's going on here under the hood?
Yeah, let's talk about the ISO 8 thing. To step back to your first thought, though, I will say to dovetail off of that one of the more impressive things about the game is how many audiences it feels like it appeals to. I hope in the final analysis, when we play the full game, it will feel like it is appealing to all those audiences well, and that's not a determination we can make after just a few hours. We'll have to wait for the review on there. But at least in what it's trying to do, it has that appeal of the really arcadey stuff that you can sit and play with your like 8-year-old kid and have a good time with. Or play with your friends when maybe you've all had a few drinks and you're not totally focusing. But it also, for either solo players or players who are partying up every night and like trying to move forward through the game, there is that greater level of depth inherent to a really robust RPG progression system. So the thing you mentioned is one of the there's like an equipable dynamic. This is something called ISO 8 that's shown up if you've played a lot of recent Marvel games. It's shown up in some other games. I think it got introduced in one of the mobile games.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But it's basically like an isotope that magnifies or adds powers. And so you, in terms of mechanically how that happens in the game, is that it's like a reward that you get as a drop. And you equip it on an individual character, and it does cool stuff.
Like decreases damage when HP is lower than 25%. It'll add lightning effect to your attacks, stuff like that.
Exactly. So you have customization of individual characters with that. And then there's a bunch of other systems that you're also progressing through, playing through and just getting XP. But there's like a bunch of other currencies that you're getting ability orbs, and so you get these drops, and they then power improving your different abilities, improving individual characters, and also as you play through on your account, there's this sort of grand alliance.
Enhancements.
Yes, the Alliance enhancement screen, which is this like big, almost like Final Fantasy X style grid.
Sphere grid, yeah.
Right? It's a little bit like that. I don't want to draw the comparison too closely, but it's kind of where you've got these hexes and you complete this hex and that opens up the adjacent hexes.
And it's all arranged like for the Infinity Stones. Like, okay, here's the Soul Stone area, here's the Power Stone area.
Yeah, and so you're slowly unlocking these different hexes that affect your whole team. And so if you have a play style you really like for instance, if you really like just spamming powers, right? But you're not so worried about being super durable, then there's a way to kind of customize your team to be that way. That you're just going to have a lot of energy for using powers, but maybe you're not as strong with your basic attacks, or you're not as durable as you would be.
Right, and that's like the interesting dynamic I think with this game overall is, and especially on the cover story, just trying to understand all the different attacks. Okay, what are the different boosts here? How does this work? And like seeing the depth of the RPG systems, where it's like, wow, that actually is, I think, deep enough to satisfy people who are interested in action RPG. It's not Diablo, everybody, but it's like, okay, there's enough meat on that RPG bone, right? And then going back to the gameplay, and it's like, what's going on? Oh my God, where am I on the screen? I'm spamming attack. Let's go.
It's really wild. I mean, that's one of the big things that I think remains to be seen about the game, that I'm very curious to see the final version of the game in July, is that it is a frantic, chaotic superhero battle game.
More so even than the gameplay footage that they've shown, and we're going to be showing, because at least the default is damage numbers are on the screen. Yeah. You can turn those off, but like with damage numbers on the screen combined with how many attacks are going on the screen, it's like, oh my God in heaven.
There's like a it sounds weird to say, but there's like a learning curve to just reading the screen.
Right.
Because there's so much going on, and tracking where you are with the what are frankly really awesome effects around the powers. You break out Iron Man and he's blasting out missile barrages and he's doing the crazy like laser spin thing.
Venom turns into what looks like a killer whale coming up from the bottom of the stage.
Oh yeah,
and so
that's a cool attack. Yeah.
You can imagine like 4 of these like crazy characters who are all doing their things all at once. And then sometimes dozens of enemies on screen.
With elemental damage all over the place, right?
It gets really bonkers and colorful. And if they scaled that back too much, I wouldn't like it, because it wouldn't have that bombastic flavor that Ben was describing earlier. Yeah. But if they do too much of it, then I'm going to be like, what's happening?
And you talked to Team Ninja about that.
I did. It is absolutely a thing that they are conscious of. They see it as one of the big, that and the related issue of like camera tracking and how the camera works is one of the things that they say is a big focus for them in the final months, and I take them at their word on that.
So if you get the game and it's like feels right, it's because we helped them fix it.
That's right. It's all us.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's a thing that they are working on, and I hope it shakes out well, because if it does, then if it can hit that little in between space, it'll be really cool, because you'll get the awesome powers, you'll get that sense of like just insanity exploding on screen, but you'll also be able to tell what's happening.
Right. And one of the weird things, too, is playing multiplayer on the same system, at least in the build that we played, you couldn't lock on to enemies. You can only lock on enemies if you're playing by yourself.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Do you want to explain the hero cam? Because they've been using it in some trailers. I think there's some confusion about what that's like.
It's just a zoom. Well, yeah, I think they even announced it when they first announced the game. They kind of showed it off, but it's just a zoomed in camera a little bit more, so it's a little bit more of an over the shoulder style camera, which is nice for single player, because it feels a little bit more like a traditional action game, I think.
But still, if you're playing like local wireless with friends that also have the game, stuff like that, everybody can be in that view, which I feel like that'd be the best way to play, because then in theory you'd also have lock on if everyone's not sharing the same screen, and that hero cam does look nice to get a little closer and get more focus on your character.
Right. If you're playing like multiple players on one screen, it's just not an option. Like it literally isn't.
Which kind of makes sense, because who are you going to follow?
Yeah, makes sense. Other things that stood out to you guys?
One of the things that stood out to me was just the fun and variety of the abilities of the different characters. I mean, did you have who were some of your favorites?
It's interesting, because it's like I feel like the people I gravitate to are the people I just like. The characters I just like already, like Thor and Spider-Man.
Sure.
I remember playing as Spider-Gwen, which is kind of fun to see her in a video game.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she's been in a mobile game. This is the first time I've played with her in a video game, and she has a really cool like wrecking ball attack where she has a big ball of webbing she creates and like just wrecks dudes.
She was definitely the most fun character that I played. We have a video with gameplay coming up later. I think next week we're going to air that, so you can see some of her attacks in action, which is nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, Miller?
I think it's pretty hard to go wrong with Hulk. I mean, he's a lot of fun.
Specifically because Ben Reeves, the way he plays Hulk, is spamming the emote system. There's emotes in the game, by the way. So when he was down, he just never stopped screaming, "Hulk approves! Hulk approves! Hulk approves!"
That's right. He was very
really
happy
great.
with all the smashing.
He was really, really pleased. I think that kind of character is really fun in this kind of game, because in part because he is really big on screen, and so he's you can see him just kind of wade into the action, and like a lot of kind of bruiser characters, they've built him with like an attack that leaps him into the action, and so you're just always bashing away at guys, and
all right.
So I liked him a lot. Rocket and Groot is pretty cool, because they're like
a combo.
You play them as a single character, and so they have this interesting mix of Groot's kind of branch attacks that are kind of clearing stuff that's nearby, but Rocket's got his gun, and so he's shooting range stuff.
I like that combo. Part of me wishes they were separate characters, because I would like to play as just Rocket sometimes, or just Groot, but
you can just only hit the one attack. So Rocket
that's true, just the rocket attacks.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that there's no other, at least that we saw, other characters that are combined like that.
Yeah, not that we saw anyway.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel's really fun. She feels like the powerhouse she should be.
Right. When she does her special attack, she turns into binary for like a little window that you can see in there.
Cool.
Right.
Really
I guess
cool.
we didn't mention that. Yeah, there's Ultimate Alliance Extreme attacks.
Yeah.
Where everybody can jump in there, and then if everyone uses it at the same time, it is extremely powerful and fun to get everybody's splash screen on the screen at the same time.
They had something similar in the second game, and I think those were a little more elaborate because they were a little more customized to like the two characters' attacks would combine into a new style of attack. Whereas this is kind of like you're still seeing largely the same visual effects from each character, but maybe they're tweaked a little bit. Like I remember Storm and I can't remember who it was.
Well, they have the two kinds, right? There's the extreme attacks, which are like you're describing, right?
Where two characters do their big attacks together, right?
2 or more. That's
Right.
the extreme attacks, right? When it's all 4, I think they call it, gosh, I can't remember the exact terminology. It's like an alliance extreme, I think.
Ultimate Alliance extreme attack. Yeah.
But then you have the synergies, which are a little bit more kind of like what Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 had going on, where you actually have individual 2 characters that when their meter is ready for it, you'll see down in the lower part of the screen where it shows the headshots of each. You'll see little links between them that shows like you're in the correct proximity and you both have the energy to do a synergy, and you can pop one of those off to do like a specialized attack that does have a unique animation. So that might be like a Storm and Thor come together to make an electric tornado. Right. So those are kind of neat.
It's largely I guess what I was just trying to point out is like largely the same effects with like maybe some extra like visuals on it rather than what we saw in Ultimate Alliance 2, which I think was a little bit more
customized.
Let's
Okay.
say.
Gotcha.
But it's cool that mechanic is essentially still there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you have one of the other big things, and I think maybe Team Ninja thinks about this as one of the more important. It's simple, but it's an important innovation to the game. There's this whole stagger meter thing for on heavies that you fight, but certainly on mini bosses and on bosses, and that is one of the main ways the moment to moment gameplay encourages cooperation, because it's this, in addition to their health bar, they've got a stagger meter. Anybody who's got a stagger meter is pretty hard to bring their health down without dealing with the stagger meter, but by just doing damage to them, you lower their stagger meter, and then they're stunned and they can't do anything for a few seconds, and you can like bash on them.
And that's when you want to pour it on.
Yes,
do
and
all
so-
your big attacks then.
So you have, there's a quality where if you're playing, especially with 4 players, you're going to have a couple people who are like, okay, you go handle the ads. There's a bunch of like Hydra agents come in. You focus on those guys. Hanson and I, we're going to go and we're going to like try to knock this guy's stagger meter down. We're going to knock Venom's stagger meter down. And once
I
he's
wanted to do
low,
that. Why does Hanson get to go?
you have to do the ads, man.
And where am I on the screen again?
That's harder to tell. But we'd bring that stagger meter down, and then when that happens, hey, come on over. He's down. And
No,
we work
I'm
on
busy
it
with the
together.
ads.
Yeah, sorry.
Hulk approves. Yeah, in general, like after all this time playing and going back and playing the original games, like I think it feels a lot like those older games. Like if you still like that gameplay and you're interested in a Marvel game, like this seems like an action RPG for the Switch for you.
Yeah, I mean it's colorful. It certainly doesn't look like those old games. It doesn't feel primitive or anything like that in terms of its presentation.
Still on the Switch, it's not exactly the graphical powerhouse.
Yes, this is not. I mean, in the scale of Marvel games, I think Spider-Man set a certain high bar in terms of realistic presentation.
Fair
stuff.
to say, Miller. Fair to say.
This
Yes.
is not that.
Right.
But it fits well with the arcade aesthetic. Bright colors, flashy explosions, that kind of thing.
Hey, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah.
We're going to be rolling out features all month long at gameformer.com/MUA3, MUA3. So there's going to be gameplay coming up on Friday, and then also snippets of gameplay tailored to like the characters all next week. All week long, right?
Yeah, well,
Reeves?
we went through all those powers, right? And so we get to show off. I think that's one thing. I don't think anybody else has done hands-on with this game yet, and so we did with most of the characters that we were able to play, and highlighted each of them have these 4 distinct powers, and so we go through them.
We have the 2 exclusive characters, Miss Marvel and Hawkeye, which we couldn't stop talking about.
We had our choice of any character.
And
we said,
these
no,
are the
make
ones.
ours Hawkeye, baby.
Got my eye on that guy. And so they'll be up as well as a couple others, so all week long. And then we also have already a hands-on, a written discussion of me and Miller's time with the game. So that's
Mr.
already on the
Marvel,
site
they
if you want
call
to read that.
Yep. There we go. Very cool. Okay, people who hate Marvel or the Nintendo Switch hate us at this point now. So we should probably move on to the next topic. Anyways, you guys, let's see. Yes, do both of you want to clap out?
You got it.
Hey, Jeff Cork.
Hi.
Matt Burtz.
What's up?
Welcome to the show. And Leo Vader on mic as well, right?
Hey, guys.
I didn't hear you, but I assume you clapped in there just to turn your mic on. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but the science is out. What is this? Ghost Recon Breakpoint?
Yeah, not Point Blank.
That's so confusing.
No Point Break, so there's no surfing.
And this is not Wildlands 2.
No.
But is it effectively Wildlands 2?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that game, built up a slow and steady following as they fixed some of the jankiness that was present early in the game. They added PvP. It's had a good 2 years since launch.
Yeah.
And they're definitely building off that platform. It's the same studio, like one for one. It's not like, with like the Assassin's Creed games, like some new people come on, but there's some old, it's basically the same team, which is like now 1,000 people.
And this is Ubisoft Paris, right?
Yes.
Okay.
With the satellite studios helping as well. But
Right. Yeah, I went back and listened to our old segment, which is just 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that Wildlands came out, and you gave it an 8.25.
Yep.
It seemed like you were on the higher end of that spectrum, but it is like this weird storyline where it feels like over the last couple of years, it's just kept selling.
Yeah.
What is it? Why did so many people come to that game late?
I think emergent gameplay is really good in that game. Like it being in an open world that's that big with like 4 other players, and you can kind of, two people could be up on a helicopter on a turret firing down on a base while the other guys are like using that diversion to go do other things and like, grab a hostage or whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Like that kind of play style is just infinitely rewarding as long as it's executed correctly.
Right.
But I think like Ubisoft really leans heavily on the style of gameplay where it's like scout out and infiltrate a base, where basically all their big franchises have variation on that. And I think Wildlands, in my opinion at least, that is the pinnacle of that kind of design that Ubisoft has come up with. It's fantastic. I almost exclusively play solo with AI, and I like to just coordinate and have them do like a sync shot, and I like to infiltrate like as silently as possible and like a ghost, you might say.
Oh, interesting. And Baby Makes 3. Yeah. Okay, so this game, does it feel a lot like Wildlands? Does it look a lot like Wildlands?
Yeah, it's another new open, expansive world with a bunch of different biomes in it. The one thing that's weird, though, it's not a real place.
What?
Through the entirety of Ghost Recon, it's been based in geopolitical skirmishes. We've been all over the world, Russia, East Africa, South America, you name it. We've probably killed people there as a ghost. They came under a lot of heat with the Bolivian setting, like kind of painting as a narco state, that the government actually complained to the French embassy in La Paz.
Oh, really?
So I don't know, like they didn't say this is a direct, follow through because of that, but we're on the fictitious island this time that's in the Pacific Ocean that looks a lot like New Zealand, but it's not New Zealand.
Your eyes tell me that you're not in love with that idea.
I don't know. I've always liked the Tom Clancy fantasy of it being a real thing that could plausibly happen.
Yeah.
And when it's on a fake island, I feel like that gets betrayed a little bit. But the setup is it's still sort of believable. It's about like this, basically like a biotech company that has their headquarters on this island. They make advanced machine learning stuff. They make all the drones, and a bunch of ghosts that went rogue for reasons we don't know. That you may have met one of them in the Operation Oracle Wildlands content drop.
Oh, interesting.
A week ago.
Is the main character, like the villain, his name like Alan Mush or something
Cole
like that?
D. Walker. Cold Walker.
Oh, no.
Hell yeah.
And that's the guy that plays John Bernthal. That's the Punisher. He goes rogue.
Which is interesting because he's also starring, like they released that episode. It was a couple of missions.
Yeah, that's
the free update. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so he was on your side in those missions, and something's happened in the time that's passed from Wildlands to this one.
Yeah,
where he's gone bad, and like so. There is interesting gameplay possibilities there, like they're going to have all the machine tech, which maybe goes a little bit towards Division's Black Tusk, where you're going to be fighting more drones and more, like armored vehicles with huge machine guns on them and things like that. But you're also going to get a lot more diversity in terms of like what your combat encounters are going to be, which I thought the last game probably needed. Yeah. Unidad and, the cartel and everything, they were pretty one note in terms of enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the diversity this time around? Just from the tech? It's just going to be all over the place?
Yeah, there's going to be swarms of drones that can come hunt you down. There's going to be like the kind of Boston Scientific or Boston
like
Dynamics. Sorry,
thing?
Boston Dynamics.
Okay,
the dog walking with a giant turret on its back, stuff like that. That's going to be, they're not one-shot kills.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to kind of plan differently when you're going to attack those.
You can say Metal Gears. I think that's fair to get excited
Yeah.
about that. I love the idea of it kind of loosely inspired by New Zealand. Like, has any game ever taken place in New Zealand? Like, for such an amazing environment, I can't
Lord
think
of the Rings.
That's right, yeah. Third
Hitman
Age.
2 has a level in New Zealand.
There we go, okay. Leo, what has you excited about this game?
Wildlands 1, I feel like Ubisoft has had a great few years. Wildlands 1 is one that I kind of bounced off of. It felt like it was marginally different from other Ubisoft open world games, you know? And I feel like what's exciting about this one is that it has a bit more of its own unique personality. It's more focused on survival and being alone without airdrops and stuff like that.
Wait,
I feel like
survival, really?
Yeah, so one of the things they're doing with this game is they are stripping away your AI companions. You can still play it 4-player cooperatively, so that's still there, and that's the best way to play these games. There's no question. But you are no longer toting around 3 dudes with terrible one-liners who sometimes have trouble lining up that skill shot that you've told them to do.
Don't they say like the reason they're doing that is so that they want people to feel isolated?
Yeah, they want it to feel like you're no longer the hunter, you're the hunted. You know, like we've heard that line a million times when talking about video games. It's not new, but they want to like build that tension, and they have some interesting new systems that are going to drive that forward. You know, there's persistent injuries, so you can get injured to a state where you can't just heal automatically. You have to go to a camp and heal yourself.
And it damages your movement and your weapon aiming.
Exactly. So it can affect the gameplay, which I like in a squad context. I don't know if I like that in a solo context. Right. You still have skill shots or sync shots. It's going to be done with drones this time, though. So I'm assuming they also have to have a drone equivalent of like a reviver.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're going to be out there by yourself, you know, at least if you screwed up playing single player in the last one of your buddies would make his way over there and help you out.
Yeah. I like that idea of having those injuries. It feels like it's kind of harkening back to a little Far Cry 2 elements, right? A little more punishing to the player. Some stories generated from you barely surviving over and over again.
Yeah.
That's right up my alley.
With just being injured?
Yeah.
What about it? Like, what's the appeal of having an injured character?
We talked about those emergent stories. I feel like having systems like that impacting your character in a meaningful way, I feel like is going to just increase, you know, by multipliers, exponentially, the kind of emergent stories that come out of it.
So is it stuff like if you get hit in the head, it kind of blurs your vision and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you could see it in one of the videos. It's kind of like an after effect more than it is like immediate. I haven't seen a player get shot in the head yet.
Yeah.
We played one little mission, and it was pretty easy. We didn't really encounter a lot of resistance. But we got to play with some of the new tactical tools, which is probably what I'm most excited about. You have a breach torch, so you can actually cut a hole through those fences instead of scanning the entire perimeter looking for that opening.
Or throwing a grenade at a fence to knock it down. It's like a chain link fence.
Yeah, so I'm stoked about that. That gives you a stealth opportunity. They have an active camo system where if you're like lying prone in the mud and you hold the button down, your guy will cover himself with mud like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. And enemies can walk right past you. They won't see you. And if your teammates do something to cause them to know where they are, they won't know where you are automatically, which is usually like an AI state in video games. So you can actually watch everybody rush past you if you're in the muck and go towards them, and then you could go do something else, or you could just take them out from behind.
Is it only the muck? Like you say active camo, but then it's just covering yourself in mud.
No, I think that it's terrain-based. I think there's other ones that you can do as well. That
so
was
it's like Metal Gear Solid 4
saw
here. So it's like, okay,
yeah,
got it.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
You can now set camps in different places. You don't have a base because you're kind of behind enemy lines with no contact with the outside world. So you have to set up the base. That's where you can heal yourself. You can switch out. There's 4 different classes in the game that each have their own progressions, and you can hot swap those when you're there. And you can also drink something or eat something, get a boost.
Huh.
Does it look like you're kind of like with Wildlands where you're helping a resistance and like building their influence?
We didn't see anything like that, but they said all the systems that they built into it. I asked about like, you know, like this is like a corporation headquarters. Like, what do you do for resistance? And they said like there's engineers and scientists that are not happy about having to militarily outfit stuff they made to help humanity. So there is going to be some sort of resistance and rival factions on the island. So
weird.
Yeah. There's also a volcano on the island.
There's also a volcano.
And a volcanic base.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're going to have the lava mission, right? Where it's slowly seeping down the mountain. That sounds good. Are you into it so far, Birds?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be able to get over my, it's not a realistic setting. You know, like that was my initial reaction. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the solo play without having the teammates. I actually wanted more control over my teammates. That's what I wanted to be able to do split operations where they go up and provide Overwatch from, you know, like a mountainous region while I infiltrate, or maybe they drive for once so I can use the turret.
Oh, sweet Lord.
Stuff like that. That's, you know, like, I don't know that I'm going to be using vehicles a lot if I don't have anybody shooting out of the window.
Yeah. What's your sense of like what the Ghost Recon community wants? It seems like when Wildlands came out, it's like, this is barely even a Ghost Recon game at this point. Do you feel like this is inching more towards the classic Ghost Recon or even further away?
I think some of the play elements that we've talked about are things that they've wanted. You can also pick up and move bodies, so you can play a little bit more stealthy. Like the hardcore guys that have been there since the original game, they want the most realistic thing in the world, and having the ghost mode in the last one where, it was like persistent damage and permadeath. That's the kind of stuff that speaks to them. So I think this game's going to have a little bit of stuff like that, but they're also leaning harder into a narrative that I think is a little more, Hollywood-esque.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So maybe it's going to speak to both. It's tough to say, though. You only see the game for 10 minutes and get the spiel. We'll find that out later.
I mean, it's clear that they're not going for pure realism, but it'll be interesting to see if they're going to do the same kind of things that Wildlands had, where you've got missions that had the Predator, for instance. I mean,
Sam Fisher's back. Yeah. Quoting Metal Gear, which is very confusing.
They do have a pretty big endgame plan already in place. They plan to have extra story content. They're going to have events, so maybe we are going to get some more of that fun novel stuff. They also are doing raids in this game.
What?
4-player cooperative raids, yeah.
They call them raids?
Yeah.
I love that. Just call it what we're going for. Here we go. What does that look like?
I don't know yet. That's endgame. They just teased it. But they did say they have the ability to add to the terrain in interesting ways post-launch, so they can build brand new bases and put an oil rig off the coast or put something in a volcanic center that maybe was too hot before, but it cooled down and they were able to do something with it.
I love the idea of them doing, because that's the one thing that people like to say mean things about Fortnite, but the fact that that map is constantly changing and evolving and people get attached to it, like locations, like get twisted around significantly is like one of the coolest things that I don't think enough people freak out enough about.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to see that in a game that like serious grown-up types get into as well.
I wonder if there's going to be a certain segment of the population that's like, well, Tom Clancy's The Division 2 I've been playing a lot of. Maybe they're starting to kind of wean off, and then by the time this game comes out, they will transfer over to this. Like, I think there's more synergy across that Tom Clancy brand now versus ever, right?
I don't know. Siege feels so different from this. This feels different from what it used to be.
Yeah.
Like Tom Clancy doesn't mean anything anymore other than like guns to me.
But now it just means what? Co-op shooters, right? At a certain point, it's bizarre, but I think it's going to attract that Division crowd, right? Just want more co-op fun.
We'll see. I mean, Division's such like a compulsion loop where like you have your to-do list, and this game will certainly have it, but it feels more in line with like the systems they have in Assassin's Creed or Far Cry than it does Division.
Right.
That's like a next step.
Yeah. Oh, when's it coming out?
October 4th.
I love it. Good
coming in
job,
hot.
companies. I love it. Just whatever. It's not a 2021 release.
Yeah.
It's going to be ready to go. That's fantastic. We have a new Gameplay Today episode up.
Yep.
Should be on the site right now. You can see some gameplay going there. I was looking at the history of Ghost Recon a little bit. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's confusing. There's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Phantoms, which is the free-to-play PC game that was originally designed for the Wii U, apparently. And in this one, I have zero memory of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Commander. Does anybody remember this one?
Is that a mobile game?
Close. It's a Facebook game, but
worse. It's Facebook.
but designed by John Romero.
That doesn't mean anything, really.
It's still weird, isn't it?
It's really
I forgot
weird.
it existed. Hey, also Jeff Cork, Shakedown Hawaii.
Yeah.
You've been playing just a little bit of it. Like, how far are you?
Oh, gosh. I probably about 10 hours into it.
Okay,
or
so the review's not ready, but this is the kind of GTA 2 inspired new retro game on the Epic Game Store and everything
super
else.
Pixelated, super funny.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I think that it's one of those games that knows what's fun about it and is very generous to the player in terms of dropping him into situations where you get to blow stuff up, and it's super silly. There's kind of like an investment layer as you're reclaiming the island of Hawaii from your business rivals, and it is super fun.
It's really nice to hear you say that it's funny. It's so nice.
It's really funny.
And
Okay.
this is the Retro City Rampage guy, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a weird moment in the office earlier today when I was walking through and saw Joe Juba playing on his Vita. And I went over there to make fun of him. Like, what the hell are you playing on a Vita? What classic game are you looking at? He's like, oh no, Shakedown Hawaii. It came out on Vita.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Still new Vita games being released? That's amazing.
Cross saves, baby.
Is it on Switch? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. But you're playing it
I think it's
on-
only PC and then Vita, PlayStation, I believe.
I think it's on Switch.
Is it on Switch?
And it's
Yeah,
on Switch
okay.
as well.
Thanks for fixing that.
But you're liking it, and the review should be on the site.
Yeah, it's great.
Sometime in the
Super
next
fun.
couple days.
Yeah, we'll
maybe.
see.
Cool. For now, do you guys want to clap out?
Absolutely.
Hey, Ben Reeves is back.
Hello.
Dude, we got to talk more about Ultimate Alliance 3.
Dude, I can't wait.
Okay.
That was too quick.
And Indrainer's here.
I'm guessing it was like 2 hours.
It was a Matt Miller marathon. It was lovely, though.
Okay.
Reiner, I came to get you in your office to talk about controllers and stuff.
Yeah.
And you were flailing around like a maniac with your beautiful Oculus Quest doing what exactly?
I was fishing.
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 Yeah, he
Catching
had
a lunker.
He had
Were
a
you
cores
drowning?
cracked open on his desk, ready to go.
Everybody thought I was reviewing Vader Immortal, but nope. I am fishing.
We're going to be reviewing Vader Immortal because
Yes.
that comes out.
The review will be up on the site hopefully by the time you're watching this.
Okay, I'm excited to play this, especially
Yeah,
on
me
the
too.
Quest. Like, your love affair is still strong with the Oculus Quest, right?
And with Star Wars.
Well, of course.
Specifically
Sure,
Vader.
Hey, forget all that. What's this fishing stuff?
Yeah.
There's a good fishing game in VR.
Yes, I don't
Killer
even
app?
know what it's called. It's such a bad pitch for people out there, but it's. I just saw it. Like I'm waiting for Vader to show up, and I saw there's a new fishing game. I was like, oh, I'll check it out. So yeah, you came at the wrong possible time. as I
Okay,
was just
perfect.
casting out a line.
Remember that Final Fantasy 15 fishing game in VR they made?
Yeah.
Monsters of the Deep or whatever?
Yeah. People in Japan like fishing, turns out.
Yeah.
But it's not in my DNA. I do not like doing it in real life even. So
Really? I like everything except for killing fish and touching fish.
Yeah.
Everything outside of that I think is
You
awesome.
might like this one then, because it's not real
Actually,
fish.
You're right. You don't have
Yeah.
to kill a single thing. That's
Yeah.
Do you
Just
get
throw
to
'em
eat the
back in.
fish? That's the part I like.
Oh, I
so
didn't
that's
try
the part
putting it up
that's
to my
missing.
mouth.
Oh, yeah. You
I
should.
threw them back in.
Anyways, Reiner, you reviewed the new Astro controller.
Yes.
The internet's abuzz about this thing.
Yeah,
What is
the
it?
C40. It's a pro controller. I'm doing air quotes for people that are listening.
So if you're not a pro gamer, get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's-
Seriously. We're watching.
on the controller itself, it says tournament ready on it. So this is like
Okay.
a controller that's made for people that want to customize, their button mappings, where the analog sticks are, the sensitivity, not just of like the analog sticks, but the triggers. A lot of this you can do on the fly. So you have
Software-wise or hardware?
hardware. You have these sliders on the on the backside of the controller that you can adjust the triggers or the shoulder sensitivity, like how much time it takes to push it all the way in.
Now I understand you've brought an example to show the class here of exactly
I
how
got it
this
here.
works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for people that are just listening, I'll walk you through what I'm doing. I'm unzipping the case that it comes with.
There's a fish
Ooh.
inside.
So here is the Astro. It weighs 10.93 ounces, 310 grams. It's about 4 ounces heavier than the standard controller.
That's all you need.
And this is for PS4 and PC, by the way.
I do find it's weird because the PS4 basic controllers I feel are a little bit lighter than I like, which is a weird thing.
Go back to the PS3. Your hands will lift into
There's
the
nothing
stratosphere.
there.
It's
Yeah,
just
I like a
empty.
little bit of weight.
I
so.
would pay, just to put weights inside of controllers. I
Yeah.
totally feel you.
So I'm not a big fan of the DualShock 4.
What?
I don't like the light. I don't like the triggers. I'm not a fan of the parallel analog sticks. I've always liked the Xbox version where it's offset.
Yeah.
And here's the sliders I was talking about, these little red knobs on the back, and that adjusts the amount of give you have on these shoulders.
Yeah.
So it's tighter now, like you could barely push it in. That just means you could shoot faster. And
ask
then
questions later.
the faceplate, the
Slower.
faceplate here, it's very easy. It comes with this tool. It's not a standard screwdriver. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's prior.
Like a hex
Yeah, it's
screw
weird.
or something.
Allen
Yeah.
wrench.
But you just unscrew the faceplate. There's just 4 screws up top, and it doesn't take any time whatsoever. And that'll let you take off the faceplate and move stuff around.
So
And-
basically, you can play your PS4 games with the offset analog sticks, which is everything you
Right.
want in the world.
Yeah, so you just take it off, and
Right.
then you just
Move
you
that
know,
stuff around.
swap
That's interesting.
D-pad into the other position.
Show the camera. Show the camera.
Oh, sorry. Put the D-pad in the other position.
Can you really get broken with this thing and put like the D-pad in the upper right and stuff?
Upper right. No,
Not
you can't
upper
move
right.
these.
You can't
You
move
can put
the
the
face
D-pad
one.
on the right though, like where the right analog stick would be, which
That's
would
fun.
be.
But then that's like a
weird.
PS4, and then
Yeah.
you can even like lift off the tops of the analog sticks, and it comes with 4 other ones.
They have like the tall ones and stuff?
Yeah, so these
Okay.
are kind of grooved with the little buttons on there that your fingers stick to, a little bit more tactile, and then they have actual longer necks on these,
concave or convex.
so you can get a little bit more length on your your analog sticks.
Lord knows I need it.
But this bad boy can up your performance, and for every game you play, you can do things like, let's say you're playing Days Gone on PS4.
Yeah.
And I hate how healing is on left on the D-pad.
Okay.
Well, there's these 2 buttons here on the back that you can map on the fly mid-game by holding down this little black button and this until it rumbles. And then you just press whatever button you want, that button to replicate. So if I want D-pad left to just be a standard button as I'm playing, I could just map healing down here and I could be doing it on the fly. So it will enhance other games and make it easier. When you have a controller like this, you start to realize just how clunky some of the game setups are to
So you're
map.
just second guessing every button layout?
Developers run out of buttons, right?
Yeah.
So they have a lot of stuff on the D-pad, but if you have extra buttons in a comfortable position like these are down here, it helps. The one thing I don't like is these sliders are where I rest my middle fingers.
Okay.
So I'm constantly bumping into these little metal knobs down here.
Right.
I don't like that. So you got to kind of readjust how you hold the controller.
Is this one of those things where this thing's like $400 or some nonsense?
It's pretty expensive.
Okay. How much, do you know?
$200.
Yeah, 200. So you're half right.
What are we doing? That's half an Oculus Quest. Don't do this, everybody.
I mean, is it like one of those things like buying new golf clubs? You know,
is.
I'm not a golfer, but like
totally
this is
is.
like, you know how like
You
a
don't
basic
need it.
set of golf clubs will be fine, but some people really love golf and they play for fun and they think like having a little bit better golf club is going to help them out in their golf game.
And then-
that's what this is. Like you buy a slightly better controller that will make you slightly more competitive online.
One thing I like about
second
it, 2 things real quick before I hand it off to you. There's this little slider up here that it's 1 and 2, and these are profiles. So on your computer, you could plug this in and use software to set it up in certain ways. So if you're playing like Overwatch, you can have like a standard controller setup for Reinhardt, but then if you want to be a little looser, you can go to 2 for Lucio just on the fly again.
Yeah.
And have those 2 different
That
profile
does seem
setups.
cool. That does seem cool.
The other thing, battery life of about 12 hours.
All right. See, now we're talking. There we
Which
go.
The standard PS4 controller, depending on what you're doing too, it's like 4 to 8 hours.
I think that's generous. I think I get 3.
If you're doing a lot of rumble, or if you have, you can even reduce the rumble sensitivity on this if you want, or if you have your headphones connected into that 3.5 jack down there, it'll reduce the battery quicker.
Sure.
So it won't have quite 12 hours. But my big problem with the PS4 controller, the battery life stinks.
Yeah.
I've always liked the Xbox one for that, even though Xbox doesn't have an internal battery, but if you do get the one they sell, that thing lasts about 10 to 12 hours. And this is comparable to that.
But Astro is not compatible with an Xbox One?
No, not yet.
Okay.
This controller right now is just PS4 or PC.
Gotcha. Is that considered the best controller on the market? Is there like a go-to just if people want the high-end controller? Is this taking the crown in your mind?
I still prefer the Xbox Elite. That's the one that Microsoft makes.
Right.
For Xbox,
for the
that
form
one's really
factor.
good.
I
Yeah.
think that still has the best feel in terms of the controller and kind of where the back buttons are. Like they're a little lower down here.
Yeah.
Once you get the triggers up there, you got to put these metal plates on there.
Yeah.
But it just feels a little better overall.
Can I feel the weight on that sucker?
I
And
think
it's heavy too.
It's really good. Yeah.
somebody's probably going to call me out. I think that one's 150, so it's a little bit cheaper. So if you're an
Okay.
Xbox player, I like that one too. I think I still like that one better than the Astro.
Yeah.
So it's probably like if you really want to upgrade your controller game, go for that.
Right.
Do you guys like the back pedals? Like I always have
No.
a problem like hitting them accidentally.
Yes.
I like you could take these off. This one's flush at least, so they aren't like really like pronounced, so you can avoid them easily.
Yeah. I play at home for PC games. I play with the Razer Wolverine Ultimate. I had to look up the name of that thing. And I
like
it's
that
got a
one?
good weight. Yeah, it feels really great. And I love like you can customize it so that there's little like light bars. Like when you press a button, it has a light blue glow coming, and that has like the profiles thing and the back triggers and all that stuff. And like it has, you can remove, you can't swap where the D-pad is versus the analog stick, but it has like, alternate lengths analog sticks if you want taller ones, like some weirdos. But I can't do that. I can't, even like the little attachments you can put on the analog sticks, like they have Call of Duty branded ones and stuff like that. I can never get the hang of it.
If you are a PS4 controller, you were talking about like what's the king of controllers.
Yeah.
I still think the Scuff Vantage is a really
It's a nice
solid-
controller. Yeah.
It's shaped like the Xbox controller, so if you really like that, what do they call it? The offset.
Yeah, analog sticks,
stick. Like it's got that design, and it's fully customizable. It's got back pedals that are removable.
Yeah.
It's got the short throw side buttons. Got everything the Astro has.
Okay.
I like it a little bit better, though.
You know, like picking the best one, that's tough, right? I've got to play with all of them on all the different systems and all that stuff. But for Astro itself, its entry into this market, it's great.
Yeah,
they did a really nice job on it.
Okay.
They've always made like really solid headsets. They've made top tier headsets, and so it's interesting to see they're branching out from that.
Yeah. Astro C40.
Yep, and if parts break or if you want even, different feels on the analog stick, stuff like that, they sell accessories as well, or, a new D-pad, stuff like that. So you can keep kind of customizing it post buying it itself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
I reached the point recently where my launch PS4 controllers they're gone.
Sure.
Like one completely broke. Well, several of the buttons just stopped working, and then the other one, the analog nub, is just down to nothing.
Yeah, the rubber on it, it just tears.
Gets shattered.
Yeah.
And especially at this age in the consoles, I imagine a lot of people's controllers are breaking down. So it's nice to know what the other options are out there.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, do you want to spend $200 or $150 at the end of a console cycle, not knowing if it's going to be compatible with PS5?
Has to be.
You would like to think so. At least it'll be compatible on PC for a while.
Right.
But we just don't know, right? Like that's something that Astro probably doesn't even know, right? Like what Sony's plans
There's
are.
no universe where it wouldn't be, right? Especially if the PS5, they want to ditch the touchpad, they would need to have the DualShock 4 compatible.
I would think it would have to be. I think kind of going to the point of we're kind of touching on, do you need one of these controllers? Which I think is a valid question. And I think I would say 90% of people do not.
90% of gamers?
No, people in the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't need this because they don't have games. Yeah, right. I would say probably at least. And I think there's this they are cool products. I think we all agree that they're cool, and if you can afford them, might as well get them. But I don't think you should feel a pressure to really need to buy these unless you're really into the competitive game and feel because they will help you. I think every millisecond helps.
Once you have one though, and you start thinking being able to map those buttons, those two buttons, you just start thinking about different games where it's oh, I don't like how this game has this set up, and you can change that, and that helps. That's a big difference for me.
Yeah.
Having to reload on one of the back buttons is always really nice, I think.
But it is seat warmers in a car, right? It's that level of I don't need it, but it is nice if you have it.
Yes, I'll confuse everybody sitting in the passenger seat throughout the rest of the time. Yeah, perfect. Hey, leave a comment below. Let us know what your favorite controller of all time is.
Of all time?
Of all time. We had this debate in the office a while ago, and I remember when we tried to rank the controllers, and you maniacs were the original NES controllers better than the Duke controller. I'm are you guys nuts?
2 buttons, man. That's all you need.
Oh, it's so gross to hold that NES
and now
controller.
we have back control buttons and all this stuff.
Exactly. Hey, controllers, Wild World. You guys ready for emails?
Yeah.
That's it.
Here we go. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. Dan Tax joining us.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. You've missed a lot of info packed in this episode so
Have
far.
I?
Man.
What did I miss?
Just fun stuff. What have you been doing in the office?
We actually had some guests in today that I was giving them the tour of the vault and all that jazz.
Can we reveal who they are?
Nope.
Okay, they've been on the podcast before. Hey, Ben Reeves is here.
Hey, let's exhaustively talk about Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
One more time. I just feel like we need to get the point across.
Got to get this out of my system.
And Jeff Cork returning.
Scale of 1 to 10 enthusiasm for that, be honest. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, be honest. Scale of 1 to 10, baby.
Kill the feed.
No, this is interesting.
Thank you.
Personally.
Yeah, that's who I'm asking.
Personally.
Yeah, you.
Not a review score. Personally.
You're not going to review it anyway.
Around a 5.
Around a 5.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Keep watching.
Hey.
There we go. Here we go. First email. Nicholas from Stocklahoma.
Stocklahoma? Wow.
Or the wind schlock like
Gibbs country.
It's Stockholm, Sweden.
Ooh.
Because you know how this works, everybody? Everybody
says
sends
God-
in emails to podcast@gameinformer.com. We read through all of them, then choose our absolute number 1 favorite, and then we put it on the big board, honor the place where they're from. In this case, Stocklahoma, Sweden.
Stocklahoma, very
Stocklahoma
cool.
syndrome.
Sounds like a cool place.
But nothing makes me happier than in these emails seeing somebody that wrote in saying hey, long-time listener, first-time writer, break that seal. Podcast@gameinformer.com. We'll take anything. Dirty laundry, gossip.
Dirty
Legal
laundry.
documents.
Gossip.
Yeah, some good industry
Give me those
gossip.
deets.
Yeah.
Ew.
Also, I'm glad you guys are assembled here because much like the Avengers? Because
Nice. No spoilers.
this batch of emails, it's a little bit darker than usual.
Oh, no.
So we got the pessimistic
Here
crew
we
ready to
go.
go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Let's set it up.
Nicholas, as I was trying to say, from Stockholm, Sweden, says, hello, podcast crew. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Hello.
We'll get to this email eventually.
No, we
Don't
never
worry
will.
about
Hey,
it.
thanks
We
for
never
writing,
will.
Nicholas.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
And
Love it.
finally, he says, quick question for you, what games did you see a colleague reviewing and think to yourself, man, am I glad I don't have to play that?
Sea of Thieves. I thought I was gonna have to do that too because I wrote a feature on it, which I liked that feature actually, and it was cool like seeing those guys. And I love you, Rare, but I was glad I didn't have to.
Just because
review
it's a
that.
tricky one to review,
Yeah.
because it's like, just make your own fun.
Yeah, I was glad Kyle did that.
How much fun can you have with your own mind? I don't know, 775?
It was a cool situation too because I still got a code because I was helping him play, but then I didn't have to like think and write about it.
Oh,
So I
that's so
got a
sweet.
little dabble in the pool and then got out.
As the kiddies always say.
That's what they say.
Dantec,
dabble.
what do you see?
You know, I don't have a specific game, but I have a specific writer. It seems every time Jeff Marchiafava is playing something, every time I walk by, I'm like, dodged a bullet on that one.
Yep.
I think, what is his curse? Is it because he's not known as like, you know me, I'm Mr. Marvel, or I'm Mr. Resident Evil. You know what I mean? It's just like he's like the, the 7.5 to 8.25 third-person shooter guy. That's kind of like his niche, right?
He's Mr.
Yeah.
Pinball. He likes those games.
Yeah.
Right?
Now
Likes those.
he's reviewing Dreams, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's a good game.
Do you guys think
Presumably.
it'd be a challenging game to review?
Yes.
Dreams.
Well nigh impossible.
Yeah. How do you even review that?
I mean, he's going to try. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of interesting qualifiers in that review. Of like,
Sure.
well,
I
but
think
if
for that you'd have to like make a document first, being like, "This is how I'm going to review this game," because it's everything.
right.
How do you review that?
By the way,
Is that document an outline? Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, that's what I'm describing. It's a magical document.
have you guys been playing more Dreams?
No.
Leo, have you been playing more Dreams in the booth there?
Yeah. How you review it is you give it a 10.
It's really remarkable. How far have you gotten with the tutorials?
I'm done with all the tutorials.
Really? I
Yeah.
am very impressed because I consider myself a pretty patient person. Like video editing takes some patience. I think I hit my peak with those tutorials. And like I appreciate that early on they put the logic tutorial early on, but that's the one where it's like, holy mother of God, you guys. And it's like, well, check out the gameplay tutorial. And it's, oh my God in heaven. You think you know how complex those systems are, and it is, again, like 15 times as complex as you think it is.
Would it be like sitting on the sidelines with your go-kart kit, going over all this as people are whizzing by and screaming and
Yes.
going, Yahoo! This
Yes.
is so much fun.
Right? Leo, I'm not bummed about it, but I just realized, like, I think I'm tapping out. I can't do it.
Even after finishing all the tutorials, getting in and starting to make stuff, there's a ton of things I wish there were tutorials for that there just aren't at this point. For a ton of the more specific logic things, I felt a little lost. And people have been helping each other out online with that stuff, but I'm waiting for them to add more tutorials excitedly.
Do you think that game's in a weird spot? I feel like the early access PlayStation thing as the first really PlayStation early access title, I feel like maybe it's not being pushed as much as it could be. It's like this weird spot where it's like, hey, it's at a discount now in theory, and if you buy it then you'll get access to the full version. It's just like this weird no man's land where I feel like people aren't
Yeah.
sure if they can jump in at this point.
Have they advertised it at all? I haven't seen commercials or ads or maybe
people-
I'm missing them.
People always
but-
say that, but like I don't know. I'm not watching NBA games or nothing, but I assume there's some ads out there somewhere.
Honestly,
I
that's
think
the
we-
best reason to get into it right now is because it's a community of only people who care the most about it, who are very
Right.
kind and excited.
Yeah. Do you feel like the community is living up to what you're hoping for the output?
Yes. Yes. Every time I log on, I see something that surprises me.
Yeah.
What percentage do you make versus play?
80% play, probably.
Really?
Yeah. That's your life strategy, isn't it, Dantec?
Oh yeah, and I think with a game like this, getting it out there as early as possible is the strategy, because everything is coming from the community. Let them get in there and start building. You know,
Yeah, because
Let
what a
them-
bummer it'd be if it just came out traditional way. Let's go to the marketplace, and there's just nothing there except for things that are made by Media Molecule.
Right. Hey, it's Please Hug Me Again, that game you've seen demo 3,000 times. The Hammer 2-player game. Yeah, I just feel like it is a weird loophole where it's like, if you're interested in All in Dreams, dive in now. Get your feet wet, because it's a fascinating, bizarre thing. And
It's already so cool. There's no reason to wait.
Absolutely. It's awe-inspiring, even if I said, okay, tutorials, closing up shop.
Are you gonna? Does that mean you're done playing the game? Are you still gonna
No.
like, go browse and?
Yeah, no, browse, try not to carouse. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still hell-bent on doing that. You cannot have more fun than just laughing with friends and
Cannot.
just searching. I played it on Friday or on Saturday night, and in my mind, I told myself, you cannot have more fun with the game than this.
Thanks for fact checking yourself there for a second. I appreciate that.
We get a lot of emails.
What night was that?
Look, I'm trying to be accurate on this
All right,
podcast.
that's good.
Okay. Sorry, did you have an answer about games that you saw somebody else
Everything
review?
that was ever on Brian Vor's screen, R.I.P. He got saddled with a lot of like, hey, you like pixels? Here's like this impossible Contra-like game or a completely derivative Metroidvania type thing. And then obviously we remember Brian, one of the reasons we loved him so much is to be like, "Darn! Oh, great. That's good." Just yelling
He was
all the
very
time.
frustrated.
Oh, wonderful.
He and Dan would also like review the WWE games, which I appreciated.
Oh, that's
not
right.
having to do.
And now Brian Vor's life is devoted to the
Yeah.
WWE games.
Yeah.
That's where he works now, which is very
I think it's
fun.
interesting that Cork also went with the writer, not a game, but just like who's the particular editor, and I think that holds true. Like,
Yeah.
Joe is very petty.
Do you want to explain what that means?
He's the reviews editor, and he throws things our way. And he's just
Dictates
so
what
mean.
you get to review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kiss
Fun
the ring.
times. Kiss my bald head. Anyways, Adam Batchelor from Raleigh, North Carolina says, "Hey, I'm writing to ask why there's always such a big gap in game releases in the summer. A lot of people are off for summer from school and have a ton of times to play games. On top of that, traveling with a Switch allows for constant gaming as well. So that leads me to ask, why is every game released from September to February?"
Yeah, go outside and play.
I mean, that's sort of a legacy thing back when the industry cycle was just like, pushing stuff out at certain times. But I think that's changed a lot, especially in the last decade. Certainly completely not even noticeable on the PC scene. Maybe more so for consoles with non-game as service releases. That's still a thing. But like everything else, constantly rolling all the time, right?
Yeah.
Always
Definitely
a
with
good time to play.
indie games. There's still that mentality of things sell better around Christmas, and they probably do a little bit, but
Yeah, Smash Bros.
So
is what
that's why-
sold like 14 million at this point. or
It was
something
because
absurd.
it was Christmas. That's, the
That's
only reason
right,
people
yeah.
cared.
but that's the mentality, right? Is they push it close to like Christmas because they want those like big opening week sales.
But I think it's telling that Adam here said, like, September through February. Because it's like, yeah, I guess even that slow trickle. Like, Capcom has kind of claimed January, which is fun. But there still are big releases coming out
Right.
up until that end of the fiscal year,
Yeah.
which is also another reason
Which
why that
that's
might
the
be the
reason.
case. Is like, in March, it's like companies want to get the game out. That's why Anthem shipped clearly too early. You know what I mean? Because, like, hey, EA needs it this fiscal year. We got to go.
Was it too early? How much time do you think that game needed?
6 more years?
6 more years? Well, you gotta put it out sometime.
A year would have helped at least.
1 year. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I wonder if the indie thing during the summer is still just like Summer of Arcade, some weird remnant where
Oh, yeah.
people just thought that, oh yeah, that's the time when you release indie games.
I
Of
could
course.
use money now.
Yeah.
The game is done.
Yeah. Let's see. Victor from Sweden has an interesting question. I love this. I just love it. Wait, two Sweden. Wait a minute.
Is that the same guy?
No, the other one was Nicholas.
And what's this one?
Victor.
Oh.
Pretty convenient. It's an anagram. Anyways, he says, hey, recent retiree Reggie Fils-Aimé once famously said, the game is fun. If it's not fun, why bother? I don't know how famous it is. I've never heard that.
I think I've heard it.
Really?
I don't think it's famous, but it's used in reference
His
to
famous quote, the game is fun.
Yeah.
I think
I don't
didn't Leo make
I
fun
don't
of
think it's
that
a quote. I
last
think
year?
he said it though. Like it's been memed. It's
Leo,
out there on
didn't you make
Twitter.
fun of that at your E3 video? When was that?
That was 2 years ago. Yeah, it was right after I started.
Oh, so 2017 he got on stage and said the game is fun?
It was during a direct, and he didn't just say it. Remember, it was like in a big white room. The game
right.
is fun.
That's right. God, I miss Reggie.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. It's a shame he's working on those WWE games now. Like Brian. While we all know that there are many not fun games, are there any Nintendo games that are not fun?
yeah,
Define fun as you wish.
Urban Champion.
Okay, no, this is the thing. I'd argue a big percentage of that NES catalog is not fun.
First party Nintendo game?
What about like recent Nintendo?
there's
Last 3 generations.
That Kid Icarus game on the 3DS.
That game has
Not
the
great.
kernel of fun, but just the controls. Like if you could play with a pro controller,
And
I think
yes,
it'd be a lot better.
absolutely. And I'd always argue that at least the spirit of that game is fun. I still like the writing. I like the tone.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and you could say like, oh, 1-2 Switch, even this generation. But it's like, 1-2 Switch gets a bad review. I would never recommend somebody buy it. But at the same time,
You could say that it was designed for fun. The result certainly did not end up that way.
I mean, it is fun, kind of, to have a quick draw thing with a friend and pretend to eat a sandwich. Isn't
Yeah.
that kind of inherently just a little bit fun? A little bit?
The right crowd in a party atmosphere, I think you can have fun with that game.
But if you brought that at a party, you may as well
You got to
just
go to bat for
say
that
go
game,
home.
really? Like,
I'm not going to bat for it. I'm just asking the base level. He says, define fun as you wish.
Yeah.
Isn't inherently every video game kind of a little bit of fun? That's the question.
I think some games are not like they fun is very hard to define, right? But some games aren't interested in you having the bing bing wahoo Mario experience, you know, like games like survival horror games, for instance, or stuff like that. You're having fun, but in a very, I wouldn't say I had fun when I played through like Devotion or Amnesia. I did, but it's like some kind of residual experience. It's like,
So do we need
because I
Nintendo
was
games to step into
afraid.
that?
That's a good question.
Well, I remember playing Luigi's Mansion. You shit your pants, right?
Totally.
Okay.
You know, when I
This
played that
isn't
game.
fun. He just started screaming.
I just say and especially with like other games that are like deal with heavy content, heavy story, narration, like with really mature subjects and stuff like
Like
that.
Luigi's Mansion.
So back to
Right.
Nintendo, though.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you know, defining fun is tough.
It's a mess.
It's a factor.
I stand by even like, okay, Urban Champions, you know, you go back, you play Ice Climbers, like not a great game. Still
I thought you said we
interacting
had
with
to keep
something
it-
on a screen.
had to keep
is
it to
gonna-
the three
well, I know,
generations,
but I'm
right?
just going for that broad definition.
Then you're saying no video game is not fun.
That might be my argument. Yeah, that might be my argument. here.
775. Let's recalibrate.
That said, what do you think is like the least fun Nintendo game from the last 2 generations? Do you
I
think?
remember my first stab I took at Breath of the Wild. I thought this is not fun, but then I tried it again and still didn't like it. And then the third time it clicked, and I had a fantastic time with it. But
Which was very frustrating because I already loved that game from
Yeah.
the get-go, and every day I had to come in and listen to you and Jeff on bellyache about how much the game sucks and how overrated it is. And I was like, oh my God. And then when you turned around, I've rarely been happier.
I did it just for you.
I've never had more fun than watching you turn around
go.
on Breath of the Wild.
Nintendo, make that game.
I don't think I've played enough recent Nintendo games to make a call.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that's like actively bad, and I can't think of one.
Devil's
There's-
Third, they published.
Okay.
Didn't develop, but they published that one, right?
Man, I was thinking like Kirby's Epic Yarn, which is technically okay. It's just kind of
But is it fun?
it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But it's very competent at what it's doing.
I'd argue Phil Kohler gave it a 9.25 for Game Informer, but I hear what you're saying.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think he did.
That
I think he
high?
did.
All right.
There's Amiibo Festival, Animal Crossing,
Oh, that game's not fun. Oh, the Animal Crossing, the
New Light-
the
Happy Home Designer.
Happy Home Designer.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Well, as you got it clearly across in the headline, low in fun housing.
Aren't
That's good.
Aren't the Mario Party games pretty much hated around here? So would those be not fun?
I think those are fun.
Yeah,
I
Super
think
Mario
they are
Party I think
too.
is fun. Although I did bring Mario Party 10 to a party once, and everybody just walked out
They
of
say,
it.
what's that video game bullshit? We're having a party.
Yeah, it was objectively not fun.
You got to set it up on the roof, okay? You know,
Right, that's
Okay.
where we're missing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many
please-
parties have you gone to where video games became like the centerpiece?
I think Jackbox does a good point.
Yeah,
Good part.
that's probably like the only really good party game, I think, because people can be creative and it's kind of a collaborative, silly thing.
Spin
What
the
about the
bottle.
old Rock Band games?
What?
Rock Band.
No, everyone hated that.
Yeah, that's
if you
true.
remember.
But even that, it's like 4 people can have fun, and then
Yeah.
you're watching somebody butcher the offspring. It's like, all right, here
Well,
we go.
if there's 4 people
Just
at your party,
Yeah, give somebody a hairbrush. Say, sing into this, jackass.
party of 4, please.
Hey, this is Tangent City. I played Twitch Sings, that new harmonics
Oh,
game.
yeah.
Does anybody else check that out?
I've wanted to play it. Yeah.
It's very weird. So
Is it good?
It's like a karaoke game. I don't know if I'll say it's good. I had a lot of weird connection issues where I had to keep closing the.
So that's like you have to be streaming while you do that, right? That's the point
You
of it?
don't have to, but it was a weird thing where the songs would take forever to load, but they would load faster if I was streaming.
Oh, weird.
And I don't know if it's some weird coincidence or what was happening there,
It
but
sounds weird.
it's a karaoke game, right? Except it doesn't pump your voice through the TV, which is the initial kind of jarring point. And I don't think I could figure out a way to make it do that. So you're singing into the microphone,
Yeah.
and it's still grading you. But the song choices are actually really impressive. They have like Beatles on there. They have a ton of Disney. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
just-
I was not going to tell you. Well, now that I'm in now,
will you really sing?
yeah, I love you. You've seen me sing Disney before.
Someday my prince will come. Will you sing that?
No,
Right now.
not right
Come on,
now.
dude.
The fun thing about it, though, because it is a fun game, is like, you know, there's a lot of community involvement. The people watching
Sure.
it, they can vote for different things to happen to affect your game, like, oh, encore and all this stuff. They can choose what song will go next if you want them to. But the most interesting thing is they can choose to have you sing in a certain style. So, For example, I was doing Beastie Boys Intergalactic, the top 5 karaoke songs.
You're a
for
bit
me.
of a rapper.
Right, thank you for pointing that out. And like halfway through it, then all of a sudden it pops up on the screen. It's like, sing this in Shakespearean.
Ooh,
What? I'm trying to read Beastie Boy lyrics. I don't have the time to process and then spit this out.
I like it.
In Shakespearean.
Wait, so it wasn't written in Shakespearean?
No, it's
you
just
had
like
to do that.
reinterpret it. But that seemed like the most complicated one. But there's a fun one too where we're singing Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is on there. Again, bizarre choice, but everybody loves some Gordon Lightfoot. And then like halfway through that song, it's like, all right, now sing this section like a pirate.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, oh, that's super
good.
fun.
Yeah,
that's
that's a
super
good
fun.
idea.
Or like
That's good
a
stuff.
person from another country. You know what I'm saying.
Jesus Christ. That's Twitch Sings, everybody.
Really?
I'm going to check it out now, so thank you.
You're really going to sing by
Yeah.
yourself in
Well,
your apartment.
He'll stream.
I'll stream it, and I'll probably like see if I can get a couple other people in my stream team
Okay.
to do it too.
And tell me how it's running technically, because I don't know if it was my
Yeah.
internet connection or what was happening.
I think
there.
that sounds
It
like
was
a lot.
nightmare.
I think that sounds like a blast.
It is,
Try
and
it.
you can like do duets with other people, but even that,
That's-
it's like, well, I think they're pre-recorded, and then they just kind of like stitch them in with you and stuff.
That's really crazy they got Beatles and Disney, though.
Yeah, that is
catalog.
surprising.
I
to me.
know, but it's
I
like
thought it was going to be a bunch of like random tunes that like
Yeah.
nobody wants to hear me sing Baby Shark.
As made famous by.
But the weird thing too is it's not like it's just day in the life but stripped of vocals. It's like a weird karaoke version of it. So I wonder if that changes the license.
Does it have funny backgrounds, too, like at a
Right,
karaoke
it's
bar
gotta
where it's just
have
like
it.
a parking
It's-
garage and like a lady
I think you
walking
can put
on
that
a
on
beach?
there, but it's like you on stage, like your avatar
okay.
singing and stuff. It's very
Very
fun.
Wild.
Wild stuff. Andrew Flanagan from Jurupa Valley, California. Ooh, Reeves. Actually, I just got this in.
What?
It's asking you to sing "Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald," but as Johnny Carson.
Rock of the Fitzgerald. I don't know.
Flawless.
He nailed it.
Yeah.
He's alive again, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
don't think I could do any better.
All right, Andrew Flanagan from Jurupa Valley, California says, "Hey, Leo in the booth. This one's for you.
Hey, man.
What's the worst or hardest part about working in the booth?"
Wow. The worst part? Mm-hmm. Jeez.
Listening
They're
to
all
us.
tied.
Or hardest. You can take either.
Is it being called on to answer questions randomly?
Weird smell.
Probably, yeah. When I'm trying to play a game on my phone and then somebody says, "Hey, Leo, can you look that up?"
What are you doing in there?
challenging.
You're pressing 3 buttons, really.
Pretty much. I'm maintaining the levels.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people yell and I put the levels down. Or they
Right.
whisper and I put the levels up. It's really very easy.
And did we reroute the XLRs so we're going to have better compression for mics 3 and 4 at this point?
That's right.
Great. So if you've noticed a lot of peaking throughout the last several months, that should be gone. It's fun tech stuff.
Yay.
Anyways, thanks, Leo. You always do a good job. There.
Comprehensive
Thank you.
answer.
Anyways, Nick in Atlanta says, "Hey, crew, can you guys talk about Rage 2? It's out in a few days, and I really haven't heard much hype about it lately."
Didn't we put it on the cover? Didn't we do a whole
We
month
did.
of coverage?
It's that weird thing of looking at it like, oh God, it's coming up soon. It's like
Is
the
it really
Aladdin
this
release. No, maybe not this week, but it's coming up towards the end of
like-
May.
yeah.
May 23rd, maybe? But it's just amazing how quickly it's sneaking up on people. And you guys, Reeves and Leo, you saw it on the cover story trip.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be hyped for that game if I hadn't played it on that trip and found out how fun it was. But that
Really?
game is really, really fun.
I
and
think
I'm
this
excited
is
for it.
the perfect time for this game to come out because it's kind of like there's not a whole lot else I'm excited to play. So even though I think I'm a little less excited than Leo, it's like, yeah, I kind of in the mood for that kind of game.
Yeah.
Open world shooter, perfect time, not a whole lot else going on.
Right. I found myself trailing off of Days Gone and then thinking about like, well, I'll get my open world itches scratched probably with Rage 2 coming up soon. I think it could be a contender here. Of course.
Contender for what?
Good game.
Okay.
Anyways,
Good game award.
Let's see. Mike Ogden from Houston, Texas, writes in and says, "Hello, crew. There have been a lot of stories about crunch in game development lately, particularly AAA studios, and how it's unfortunately the norm more often than not. I've been playing games since the NES and have always kept up with the game media, but I can't remember the first time I ever heard about crunch in the industry. I knew technology as well as the size and scope of games have all drastically changed since the late 80s and early 90s, and there are far more people involved at every level, but I wonder if the long hours associated with game development today has always been there, or if this is a relatively new thing that started with the switch from sprites to polygons."
I think they've always been there, right?
Yeah. Oh,
It's so embedded in the industry. That's why it's so difficult to extricate this without some kind of there's so many different factors in play here. Like everybody wants to work in games, they'll take less money to do it because it's fun. and those hours are just expected. Like, it's crazy, and you get. How are we going to change that? I don't know.
I bet
we've tackled this question before on the cast, I think.
How do you stop crunch?
Yeah.
I bet people would just hear about it more because of the internet and social media. I'm guessing.
And also, there's 40 times as many people working on these games,
yeah,
so 40 times as many people to talk about it and see the conditions.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's coming up more and more, maybe just because back in the day, I'm sure they're crunching like maniacs. You're not turning out a Crash Bandicoot game every year without Naughty Dog killing themselves, or a Final Fantasy game every year, which is crazy. Like, Final Fantasy VI was made in 8 months or something insane like that? It's unthinkable, right?
Right.
They were killing themselves back then.
I think,
but real quick, I think part of it is just like the industry was younger, and I think a lot of developers were younger.
Right.
And maybe that's why it was just like, well, this is my life. This is what I want to do. I'm 22. I'm just going to work like a madman. So you wouldn't really.
You go back and talk to any of those guys, they're all like, yeah, we just basically didn't leave the office for like a year.
Yeah.
And that was like, they're not even exagerating.
No, like on the Blizzard trip, that
Yeah.
came up several times, right? Like Warcraft 3 days, Warcraft 2, StarCraft's like, whatever. We'll just stay here and keep working on this stuff.
Yep.
Don't
until
mind us.
Until it's done.
I would love if there are developers listening that want to write in about this, but I always heard too that when a game shipped back in the day, they'd take 2 months off. They'd just be gone. We're taking vacation, chilling. And now I think that's changed with DLC and constant updates. You can't take that time off after a game ships. You have to kind of keep working on it.
The patch that makes the game work.
That might have actually made it worse.
Yeah, that's part of it now.
Yeah, that tricky thing. Here's a good one. Jeff Cork, this is up your alley.
Uh-oh.
Billy Cooper from Asheville, North Carolina says, hey, y'all. While playing Just Cause for the first time the other day, I realized that one of the worst things to do in video games is driving a boat. Can any of you recall a fun time you had driving a boat in a video game, or do they all suck? Bouncing on water, accelerating, docking, everything sucks.
I mean, Hydro
wrong.
Thunder, right?
Wow, do I ever
actual
agree with that
racing
email?
games.
I don't think I've ever had a fun experience on a boat.
Hydro
in a
Thunder
game.
is an interesting one. The boat-specific games, even like Wave Race, is a jet ski a boat?
What is it about water in general?
It's floaty.
It's like it's not meant for us.
Because it's unpredictable.
and sucky.
Yeah.
It just
I think
drains the
part of it is,
momentum
like,
and fun out of everything.
In a game that isn't where you're not always on the boat, it takes you out of the control scheme that you get used to and puts you in this alien world, and you're like, God, can I just go
do
back to the
vehicles
controls
drive
I
you
know?
nuts?
That's a good question. Wow.
But it's like a vehicle, except if the ground is moving, especially
Right.
wave physics being more
And
accurate
it's
now.
slower
just
and
like,
momentum is exaggerated to be like if suddenly you're driving a car and everything is ice.
right.
It's the
They
same thing,
got like
this is
weird
not
inverted
fun.
controls while you're backing up and
Yeah.
like,
Even like the opening of Uncharted 4, I'd argue one of the best games of the generation. It's like when you're in that boat, it's like, this part sucks.
Get me out of this boat.
Really? You didn't like
no,
the
we got to think of a good boat game. There's got to be one, right?
Hydro Thunder is a good
Hydro
contender.
Thunder. There's even like the Mario games. I always dislike the water levels. I know that's not a boat, but
What about
wait, is that a boat?
Not a boat.
hang on, Leo? Is Mario a boat?
Can you double check that? That might
Is
be
Mario a boat?
Technically a ship.
Right. I just had one. What about because of like the story time aspect, God of War? I know Dan said that it was unbearable or whatever the hell he said.
But I understand it's not really used as it's used as like a load screen and a lot of dialogue, which is why I didn't like it. But
Sure.
But
for
I
the
enjoyed
exposition it did, yeah. But you're not actually ever maneuvering it around stuff or having to.
a little bit.
You're not dodging bullets or you're
Bullets?
not fighting or you're not doing any
Is there
heavy
ever
lifting.
an action scene in the boat?
I don't think there is.
Don't you fight on top of the boat
When
when you're first getting it unhinged or whatever?
unhinged.
Like loose, and you're filling up the
Would you get a little
balloons
loose?
or whatever?
In God of War?
You're talking about the new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filling up the balloons, getting unhinged.
Isn't there something where like the boat's like frozen on the side of the mountain? You're trying to get it loose, and there's like a bunch of monsters climbing on top of the boat.
What are you talking?
I think I'm remembering the same section you are.
He might be. There might
Wait,
be
you
a
don't find the
point.
boat on a icy mountain?
Isn't it like it's somehow it's stuck, right?
No.
It's not ever
God.
stuck.
No, I think you find it below Cersei's, or not Cersei's, Freya's
Yeah.
little thing in the water down there, right?
Just got to chill in there kind of loose.
Oh, you're talking about the small boat.
Yeah, what are you talking
Oh,
about?
I'm talking about when you're in like Helheim or wherever. There's that like
Oh, that part sucks.
bigger thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I'm glad
he's
we're
talking
on the
about, he's
same
talking about like the
page.
flying boat.
Yeah.
Right,
in hell,
right.
yeah.
Well, what
Okay.
about Assassin's Creed? I know some people like that boat sequence.
They're wrong.
Yeah, Leo, do you have a verdict in the booth too?
In GTA Online, are jet skis boats first off?
No.
We'll allow it.
It's a personal watercraft.
But watch yourself, Counselor.
No water.
There are missions where you jet ski down the rapids in the middle of the map by the mountains. That's actually pretty fun.
Okay.
There are hydroplanes. So the 3 seconds where you're driving the plane on the water before you take off, it's kind of exciting and fun.
Okay.
That's pushing boat boundaries.
I think we need to tap the internet on this one. You should send in your best boat.
And
Podcasting.com, good boats only.
And then
Airships
also,
don't count.
I bought a nice big boat for me and my friends, and we all put on swimsuits and drove out to the middle of the ocean and just dove off the boat.
And
In
was
GTA?
In GTA, it was very fun.
that boat Mario?
That's correct.
Okay.
Great. We've got
Confirmed.
the bottom of
Was
it.
Mario loose? Was he on the
Okay, let's see. Okay, Cade Ondor.
Oh,
Skyping in from.
Naboo.
Thank you. I was trying to give a Star Wars. I was going to say Askman. What's the Alderaan? Anyways, Cade Onder writes in and says, "Hey crew, I'm Cade Onder from Des Moines, Iowa. I wanted to get some anecdotes from you guys on bizarre preview events / presentations you've been to for games. As I prep for my first E3, congratulations, I'm scheduling appointments, and a friend told me of a time they went and saw Metro Last Light behind closed doors. The demo crashed or had some big tech issue midway through, so the Ukrainian developers just acted the entire demo out. They didn't just describe it, they got in character and acted it all out themselves. Curious if you have any stories like that."
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
I've never had any experience like that. They've gotten so good at them these days. Like nothing. I mean, sure, something can go wrong, but it's not going to make it interesting. It'll just be like, oh yeah, we can't go to that part of the level.
Yeah. A couple years ago, the State of Decay 2 demo at E3 broke big time, but I liked it because then they had to like reload and do it all over again, and it showed like how dynamic the game was. But you could definitely tell PR was like, oh god in heaven, everyone's going to talk about what broken this game is, and they saved that conversation until the game released instead, which I think was very nice.
Very savvy.
Yeah. Wacky presentations you guys can think of behind closed doors?
Gamescom one year in Germany, I got a demo for Brink, that old Bethesda game,
Yeah.
and they loaded us all into a boxcar in Germany.
Cool.
And closed the door, and it was so hot. And we're in a boxcar in Germany, and they didn't start the demo for quite a while, and people started kind of losing it a little bit.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Why did they do that?
What game is this for again?
Because it
Brink.
was Gamescom.
Was there a level with like
simple
a
answer.
train in it in Brink?
Possibly. We're going to do with all these boxcars in Germany.
That's very silly.
Seems real dumb.
That's also the same one where their booth had this moat that was about 2 inches deep all the way around their booth. And one of the PR people I was talking to was like freaking out, like, this is a bad idea because someone's going to walk in here and right on cue, another PR person walked by and just went like ankle deep in this moat. It was just like this weird brackish water.
Oh, God.
Flies nesting in it. Mike from Concord, New Hampshire. Correct. He says, "Hey, I've had my PS4 since the day it launched, and it's on its last legs. It sounds like a jet engine is taking flight in my room every time something needs to be loaded."
That's a PS4 sound.
Yeah, I think that's just the baseline PS4 sound. I'm considering upgrading to a PS4 Pro, but I have some concerns that make me want to hold out. I don't have a 4K TV, so I can't take full advantage of one of the console's features, and with the PS5 likely launching in a year and a half, should I just hold out hope that my launch PS4 hangs on? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I have a PS4 Pro though, and I don't have a 4K television.
Yeah, that's not
I
unreasonable.
like it
but just
fine.
wait until your PS4 dies. It will probably last
The
until
problem
fall
is,
2020.
I don't. Will it last that long?
It always sounds like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does, you can probably find it. I wouldn't go pro, just like buy another cheap PS4
Yeah.
for like a year to hold you out.
I'm sure there's a lot of these stories, especially like around the time it launched and stuff. But I was in a certain electronics store that shall not be named, and I was just walking by the video game section, and I heard somebody say like, "Hey, I'm looking to get a PlayStation 4," and the person like selling them the PlayStation 4 is like, "Do you want a PS4 or a PS4 Pro?" And he's like, "Well, what's the difference?" And they're like, "Well, like if you play a lot of multiplayer games like Call of Duty, if you buy the PS4 Pro, you'll have an advantage because there's less lag." It's like, what? What are you doing, everybody?
That's how
That
he's
makes me
selling it?
That's the sell.
Makes
a
me
good
feel
sell.
worse.
Yeah.
What's my excuse?
That guy better be on commission because he's making sales
He's
over there.
lying left and right. It's amazing.
Is he making sales? Did the guy buy it?
Oh, you know. They
Oh,
got
I
the
didn't stick
Pro.
around long enough, actually. I should have just followed
Investigative
them
reporting. Just
uncomfortably.
put on your Detective Pikachu hat. And
Oh, yeah. Oh, you guys saw that movie?
We did.
Yeah, Dan
There's
and Reeves and Leo.
Oh, yeah.
A spoiled going up on it either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but in general, what'd you think?
I was. I thought it. I was in the middle. We all did thumbs up or thumbs down
Yeah.
at the end of the spoiled, but I thought it was okay. I thought it did great with world building and how the Pokemon acted and interacted with the people in the world. And I thought the plot was a dire mess in need of life support.
I thought the first half was pretty strong and fun, and then less interested in the second half.
Because it focuses on plot more than just world discovery.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and there's not as many jokes. It's kind of that classic.
It did a bang up
problem.
job, like CG, like any doubts I had, like they nailed the Pokemon and they had a lot of fun with the stuff they did, and then as we've said, they
Really cool world building. I'd love to see another like take on this.
Yeah.
Another extension into this universe.
But voice of reason, Leo in the booth here?
I liked it. I think Tack and I are actually pretty agreed on a lot of it. I just like the positive parts enough to like the movie more overall.
Is it funny?
I laughed
Okay.
several times.
Wow. Great.
Is there a fart joke in it?
yes,
Is it Snorlax?
no,
Interesting.
Is there a lot of fun fan service for Pokemon fans?
yeah,
yeah.
Outside of obviously just seeing the Pokemon, a lot of like inside
Yeah.
jokes.
Yep.
not like
There's some lore stuff.
yeah. There's definitely some like, oh hey, I'm a Poke fan, I got that.
All right.
And they
I'm
use
on
the
board.
Pokemon in some clever ways.
And the Pokemon designs are amazing.
Did they show inside the Pokeball?
They do not.
No.
Hang on, Leo's eyebrows raised.
That's a good
There's a
idea. I wish
Pokeball.
they had addressed that.
Elijah from Dallas. He says, "Hello, informers." With the, what are you doing?
I don't know.
Did you laugh?
Maybe a little bit.
Because I was thinking it'd be funny to role play it like it's the Elijah. Is there an Elijah in the Bible, Reeves?
Yeah.
What did he do?
He's a prophet.
Okay. Well, yeah. Speaking of profit, look at this good connection. Hey, with the recent PS5 article confirming PS4 backwards compatibility and that patent suggesting perhaps even PS3 and prior systems being possibly playable, it has got me thinking. PSN name changes are not compatible with prior systems. So if the PS5 can play PS3 games, does this inherently mean we lose all of our saves?
We don't know that, right?
We
I
don't
mean,
know that. It's an interesting
hope not.
thought.
Yeah.
But even if the name changes are not compatible, that doesn't mean that it can't recognize your account, right? Because maybe there's some sort of way of identifying you outside of your name. I'd imagine that's a crazy string of
Yeah, that's
digits or
complicated,
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So maybe not inherently just because it's not compatible with previous stuff.
Well, is it a crazy string of digits, or is that part of the problem they've been having?
I don't know. But it's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be what's going to happen. They're going to announce it's going to be backwards compatible with absolutely everything, and people will be like, yeah, great. And then the details will trickle out later that it's not going to carry forward your PS3 saves and stuff. And
There'll be
people are
some of
gonna be
those
so
cases,
pissed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
can't
could
win 'em all.
totally see that happening now that you... Dang it.
Don't point fingers at me. Blame Elijah the prophet
that
here.
work
Elijah,
I put
come
into
on.
Motorstorm down the drain.
Jacob from Phoenix, Arizona says, "Hey, crew, I recently quick stuff. I recently saw Battlefront 2 in the Xbox store for $7 and figured I would check it out after skipping it due to the overwhelmingly negative response at release, correct? I haven't been able to put it down since. There's a ton of content, game modes, and a short but fun campaign. How different is this version from the version at release? Pretty different, I think. Also, what are other games that released a poor reception that have either aged well or the patches updates fixed the game?"
I don't know if it was. Well, I'd say I guess Warframe is the
yeah.
go-to example.
Right.
That game was not amazing on release at all. It was very forgettable. And now it's like one of the best free-to-play experiences out there.
I know that some people still hate it with the fiery passion, but I think Diablo 3 really turned
sure.
around from launch.
Yeah.
I think
really good one.
the first Division also.
But now, why play that?
First Division got so much, like, that was a game I bounced off of super hard when it came out. I think I played it for like 30 minutes to an hour, and I'm like, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Went back to it after like they had a Steam sale on like all the new content, and I was like, wow.
This is for
There's
me.
a lot of stuff here. This is for me. I can't wait for Division 2.
I saw GameSpot's Mike Mahardy, friend of the show, former Game Informer intern. Like, he got into Warframe within the last year, and he was tweeting a lot about how messy and complicated it is to get into, even though it is good.
I believe that. There are a ton of systems in that game. Like,
Yeah.
It is overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
insane.
He really likes it, though.
He does, yeah. So if you can get over that hurdle. Here's a fun one for everybody. Jeff Wichtowski from Tonawanda, New York.
Oh, boy.
Oh, come on. Here we go. He says, "Greetings, GI crew. I recently celebrated my 40th birthday,
congratulations,
Congrats, dude.
having survived cancer."
Oh, congratulations.
Wait, is that
Congratulations.
another one? Jeez.
Yep. No, I'm not building it. Well,
It
we're
sounded
still
like you were
building.
building.
We're still
However-
building in a way. However, I can happily say that recovery has been tough, but going well, and I'm currently free of any signs of cancer. Way to go, buddy. It's not something I ever expected, and there were times I thought about what I might miss. Of course, missing my son grew up as a tearjerker and something any father would think of. I can honestly say the nerd in me would have been so mad to miss the Resident Evil 2 remake and Avengers Endgame.
Oh, wow.
Jeff Cork is having a reaction.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my question to you is, if you knew tomorrow was your last day on Earth, what are 3 entertainment-related things you'd be most upset to miss out on?
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness.
Some new Taco Bell concoction, undoubtedly.
We can bury you with that, though, so that's okay.
Just perfect. Slop it in there.
That's actually how you die. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
This concoction wasn't ready, sir. Stop. There's the experimental table.
Get it out of your mouth.
Bloodborne 2.
Do you think it's happening?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask. Does it have to be stuff that's announced?
We have to be able to speculate because it has to be announced.
I think stuff that's announced. I think that makes it more reasonable, right?
Spider-Man, Far From Home.
Really?
Yeah.
You just got to make it
that
in July.
That's not, I don't have to go
But he
far.
says tomorrow.
He's only got one day.
Yeah.
So I'd say
you're right.
the end of Game of Thrones.
That Taco Bell burrito's going.
The which one?
The end of Game of Thrones.
End of Game of Thrones.
It's an obvious one.
That would be a bummer. Yeah. Do you think, though, if you were slowly dying throughout
I
the
probably
course of
wouldn't
24
think
hours,
about that, no. I can't think about
once in 24
hours. If I have
hours,
1 day left, I'd really doubt I'm going to think about the entertainment that I'm going to miss.
I bet you would. I bet you would.
I can almost promise you that I would not.
We'd all focus on family and friends and all that fun stuff, but for 24 hours, first of all, you wouldn't sleep.
And then at that point, if I'm going to die in 24 hours, I don't care about Game of Thrones. I promise you this.
No, you call HBO and you say, look, I got that thing. You got to do the thing where we put on social media where you show me the thing and I can talk about it.
J.J. Abrams come here and act out all of episode 9.
Yeah.
Exactly. Episode 9 is one of them, despite all my best judgment and where the things have gone these days.
But yet Game of Thrones.
Well,
very interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Oh, he's got me there.
Are you anti-Game of Thrones at this point, Cork?
It's getting a little stinky.
This season
Really?
sucks.
I think last season was the weakest, and I've enjoyed the first 3 episodes. The last episode of this season bothered me a fair amount.
Is that the one with the coffee cup?
We're being spoiler
Yes,
free.
the coffee cup episode had enough of those details. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Last
Wait, what?
episode, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
Not in a fun way either.
How many
Right.
episodes are left?
2.
2.
Isn't that
Really?
crazy?
Yeah.
Are you watching?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
You have 24 hours to live.
Yeah, I guess I got to hurry up.
So we get some other ones. What? I bet you've got Avatar on yours since,
What does that say?
Does he have it?
Really?
Avatar 2.
I knew it. I freaking knew it.
Because not like I'm dying to see that movie.
But you
I
are.
just,
Yeah, literally, that's the
but
question.
I am so curious, just conceptually. I would just want to know, on my deathbed, I just want to know, does James Cameron pull it off? That's what I want to know. More than watching a 2.5-hour plot. I just want to know, can he live up to nailing sequels? God. That is his pedigree. And the world is against him on this one. Can he do it one more time?
Right.
And then again and again and again and again.
3 more times.
I feel like I always like his movies too, but for some reason I'm against this one. I even saw Avatar and I was like, it was all right.
All right. It was fun.
No, it was fun. Yeah. It was fun. I'll admit that. But I have no enthusiasm for sequels.
I rewatched it in the past year. It's not as fun as you think.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
But I was going to say Final Fantasy VII would be another thing I'd be disappointed.
The remake?
Absolutely.
For a similar reason. It's not like I'm think that game's going to blow me away. It's more like I want to see what they do with that.
I played a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 3, and then I watched a friend play maybe an hour and a half of Kingdom Hearts 3 from the middle of it. All I could think about the entire time was, this is the team making my Final Fantasy VII remake. And I wanted to claw my eyes out and rip my ears off and shove my nose up my butt.
That's what kills you.
And that's...
Hey!
Any other entertainment picks?
Those are the biggies.
Okay.
That's it. I was racking my brain with this one, thinking about announced video games.
Right, they have to be announced.
Because Death Stranding, I can't wait to see.
That makes it hurt.
Leo, what do you want there?
The Last of Us Part 2?
Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But even then, the first one had such a great sense of closure,
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with
You
that.
want to go
for
out
sure.
on a high note, an uplifting tale of humans conquering adversity.
We did it.
That was a heavy question, man.
Yeah, look, it's only getting darker from here on out.
Are you serious?
Let's do this.
How do you get darker from that one?
Michael from Lewiston, Idaho says, if you had 1 year... No, this is lighter than it makes it seem. If you had 1 year where you're restricted to playing only one console, not the current generation, for the purpose of clearing out your backlog, what console would you choose and why? He'd choose GameCube.
Can I pick PC, or is that order where
Cannot
you
choose that. Need clearly defined console.
Super Nintendo, done.
And why?
Wait, you don't have a backlog.
Oh, yeah, no backlog. Just the one I get to play all year, right?
For the purpose of clearing out your backlog.
But what if I don't have a backlog?
If it says, if Dantak is on the panel, he can tell us what he had for lunch instead so he can participate in this question.
Does it really say that?
It does say that.
I didn't have lunch today.
No, damn.
Oh, I'm sorry you don't get to participate.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
had leftover Taco Bell for breakfast.
Oh, that's good. So backlog system. What do you go with?
PS2.
Yeah, I guess
think
that's a
that's-
pretty safe bet. What are the biggies that you haven't played on PS2?
Those Jack and Daxter things. I don't know. I don't know what you want from me, man.
Yeah, I guess that's a decent one. I mean, think of all the games that are on like 360 though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you'd have a lot to dive into.
I was thinking
I'd
360
I'd probably
too.
go 360.
You'd have a fun time and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
for
I
a
guess if
whole
you want
year.
that, or you could go back and play, Secret of Mana or whatever Dale wants to play again on the
I'd go
Super Nintendo.
You get a lot of good stuff on the Super Nintendo.
Hey, I didn't include it because I was so outraged, but somebody wrote in to the podcast saying that Secret of Evermore is the best game on Super Nintendo.
No.
Does anybody?
It's underrated.
Underrated.
It is underrated. People don't talk about it as much, and it's a really good. It's a good game.
Okay, I've
It's
never
good,
played
good
it.
to great game. I think I have it on a list on the site actually of like underrated SNES RPGs.
Okay, that's fun. That's a fun idea. John from Aleva, Wisconsin. Oh, he asked about Game of Thrones. We already covered that. Basically, hey, do you
What did he
think
say?
he's just saying, hey, who's the biggest fan in The Office? Almost everybody watches it in The Office. Reiner even came around after saying he was only going to read the books for years and years.
I remember that.
eventually
Has he
did.
started watching him, though?
Yeah.
I think he gave up because he knows those books are never coming.
Yeah.
Although he said the big third episode, he's like, I skimmed some parts. It's like, what? Skimming parts? Game of
How do you
Thrones.
skim a show?
I think he's being controversial.
Oh, a little bit.
Well, who is the biggest fan? I feel like I hear
not me.
production talk about it like every Monday.
That's true.
I feel like
That's
they're
our graphic
like
design
huge
department
fans.
and stuff. Yeah. Do you think there's any universe where you're going to be satisfied by the ending of Game of Thrones?
No.
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 They can't
It's
pull
just
off
how
an
it
Avengers
is.
Endgame.
But there,
No,
but,
I
but
don't
there
believe
are
they can.
degrees of satisfaction.
That's true.
We can admit that.
Okay,
right?
let's predict our scale of 1 to 10 satisfaction level with the ending of Game of Thrones. I'm going to give it a 7 on my part.
That's pretty good.
But I have
actually.
low expectations.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd say like a 4, based on I can only base it on what we've got.
Because we're frogs in this jacuzzi, and they're slowly turning down the temperature.
Right.
Yes.
Because
yes.
of what we do know already, without spoilers, like my faith just if I was at a 7, I'm now at a 4.
Right. Jeff Cork, this does not count as a spoiler,
Okay.
no matter what. But do you want to give your prediction for the last shot of Game of Thrones?
The last shot is going to be Sam.
What? He doesn't know.
I haven't seen it yet, guys. They did not answer my call and let me see it ahead of time. no matter how much I said I was
I'm sorry
really-
about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to see you go.
It's Sam closing a book, and the title is A Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh,
I think
that's fun.
at first I was like, there's no way. But it's like, well, actually, there's ingredients fueling this at this point in the latest season where they're going to want to show Sam in the future type of thing. I think it's a very good guess.
I'm going to be very satisfied just hearing everybody complain about it. by
And
the
yeah,
end.
that'll happen.
What I want it to be is Cersei sitting on the throne and impaled as it pulls back on the throne itself are the heads of everybody else.
That'd be so
Oh,
sweet.
wow.
They're going to use the throne.
They have to use the throne.
They'll
They're
probably
go-
use the throne.
People, you're not going to have a sword
No.
left, right? And it'll be like, what do? I'm scrambling for a weapon. And then
Yeah.
you go up and you break a sword off the
Yeah.
throne, and then that's a fight.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I think you're.
I bet
I
that'll
don't think
be
that's gonna happen.
Clegane Bowl. That'll be what happens there. The Hound will get his sword knocked out of his hand,
Interesting.
and his brother will say, "I burned."
Dantech's
your
eyebrows are
face."
raised so high.
Yep.
And then Ned
I could
Stark
actually-
steps out of the
out of all the
shadows,
situations with the throne, I think that is the most likely.
Yes, I think that's
and
really
they say, "You just got played, son."
Dan, I had no idea this game existed.
Which game?
Back in 2011, there was a Game of Thrones RTS called Game of Thrones Genesis.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Was it mobile?
No, on Steam. The reviews are not great.
Who made it?
I don't know. Cersei?
Cersei.
But apparently it's like takes place 1,000 years before the events of the show, and it's like Queen Nymeria,
Oh boy.
I believe. But it's
I got a developer. Anything?
it starts with a C, I think, but not one I had heard of before.
Were the White Walkers around back then?
That's a good question.
I don't even.
know.
I don't even think they were there.
I read a lot of the Steam reviews last night, and a lot of them were like, "This has nothing to do with my Game of Thrones, Garbage Town." A lot of that stuff.
Oh, Garbage Town is in
They
it?
said Garbage Town.
Like
Oh.
I'm well aware that there are mobile games.
my favorite province.
Game of Thrones games that exist, like that mobile one, for instance. But like,
Yeah. It seems like at this point the best one is probably Rain.
Oh,
right?
yeah. That was a good fit for that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Mark Johnson from Stockton, California. Reeves, you'll love this. He says, "Hello, crew."
Wait, is this another Stockholm? Is that what you said?
Stockton.
Wait, his name's
Stockton,
Victor
Lahoma.
again.
Wait a minute.
What's going
Never
on?
mind.
He says, a couple weeks ago, I was at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk.
Oh.
Ben Reeves and I were just there with Timmy Turry, friend of the show.
Nice.
He's saying, trying some of the latest arcade machines. I remember hearing about Halo, which was there, but I came across a 4-person shooter game based on Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Cool. We stopped and looked at that
I
too.
remember
Like,
that.
it's based on the reboot of Tomb Raider. They have like a light gun game. It's crazy.
What
That
a
sounds
weird
fun.
thing.
Yeah. But I came, my group played it, and while designed to eat your money, the game was well done. My question is, what game do you guys think would translate to a cool arcade game? That arcade was interesting because they also had a version of Rampage that was like based on the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like reskinned old Rampage.
But it looked like old Rampage gameplay.
yes,
like where you're climbing
but
up
with like
those
new
towers.
White George assets in there and stuff.
I'd like a sword-based Dark Souls. Like, you have the swinging sword thing.
Okay.
So it'd be an arcade machine.
Can you imagine how much money you'd blow in that every time you
Yeah.
die, popping new quarters and dollar bills?
It wouldn't be like you'd. Well, I guess they could keep it. It'd just
Right.
be just like an arcade game. Hey.
Hey. I guess for an addition here, just like some sort of like House of Mirrors, you could get lost in it. It could be kind of a fun game to play there. Santa Cruz Boardwalk.
What?
Little inside
Arcade
joke.
game?
Yeah, that's
Pretty
not an
good.
arcade game. That's a House of Mirrors.
Anyways. Josh from Lancaster, Pennsylvania says, hey, what's your current PlayStation theme?
The hamburger one. Cheeseburger 2.0, I think it's called.
That sounds good.
Free?
And it's just I paid $1.99 for it, I think.
What?
It's got a really catchy song, and it's just a cheeseburger that's like rotating and spinning sometimes.
Did you just search cheeseburger on there?
Yeah, just search for cheeseburger.
That's rude.
You'll
How'd
know
you
it when
fi-
you see it.
How'd you find that?
I don't remember.
Can anybody make those themes? Like,
No,
are they
it seems like it
third-party stuff?
requires a great degree of talent.
Well, no,
I
I
gather.
I don't know if they're all like made by Sony or if like
I would like to know the story. Like some of those themes are just abysmal. It's like gangsta, and it's just like a guy with a bandana and like the anonymous logo spray painted on a brick wall behind him. It's like $4 for that, really?
Jeff Cork, I ain't no features writer here at Game
Yeah.
Informer.
The worst themes.
The story behind the worst themes on the PlayStation Store seems very
that'd
fun.
be really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't read it, but I'd like that headline.
I would
like
read
to
it.
read it. Yeah.
I would
Okay.
read it.
Yeah.
I have the default theme still.
Very
You
cool.
never
Dirty
change that.
dog.
Nice.
Really?
Same here. Who would have
Wow.
thought that?
I liked the PlayStation Retro one. For
That's a
like,
good
was
one.
it the 20th
Oh,
anniversary? I thought that one was really neat.
But the caveat is, what did they blow?
I don't remember.
There's no hamburgers.
No boot up sound?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a problem. For me, I've had it since it came out, and I don't think I'll ever change it, but the Firewatch theme is beautiful. It's like the Ollie Moss art, just like very subtle sound design. Highly recommended. Can't top it.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Jeff Cork,
Uh-oh.
Kate Willert from Minnesota, somewhere inside our office, she
Oh,
says.
gosh.
What?
Not
That's
again.
true. That's a mysterious thing we'll talk about probably at some point in the future. Anyways, Kate writes in and says, hey, what's the best burger in Minneapolis? Some say it's Parlor's Burger, but I've heard not everyone agrees.
Who doesn't agree?
Yeah, they're
doesn't agree.
wrong.
Yeah, Parlor's a good burger.
Parlor is the best burger.
Parlor's
Here.
probably the best.
Yeah.
I would also.
We don't have any advocates for the Juicy Lucy.
It's
I
good.
was gonna. Well, the Juicy Lucy, I think you should have. Like, it's not like best. I think it's a good burger. I wouldn't put it at best burger level.
Real
You know
quick,
I
what
mean?
is a Juicy Lucy?
It's a burger with cheese on the inside of the patty.
Yeah.
So it's two patties.
melted and molten, so it's still warm.
Designed to hurt your mouth.
Yeah, you gotta let it cool. I would say if you really want a Juicy Lucy that's really good, I would recommend going to Blue Door.
I think,
There we go.
I think the Blue Door one's the best too. But
Yeah.
Parlor Burger
Can't top it.
can't top it.
It's
could
so
put-
good, you don't even need toppings on it.
You don't.
Literally.
Yeah.
They don't serve it with any toppings.
It's meant to be
Well, it's got pickles on it.
the
doesn't it?
perfect
Well, yeah.
diner burger. The pickles are optional. They're served on the side.
I don't put those on.
3 pickles on the side.
2 in the pipe.
It
5
tastes
by
good.
5. Hang on, what's that, Jeff Cork?
I said it tastes good.
Okay, great. Danny from Adelaide, South Australia, the city of churches, so therefore God's country. Hang on, let me check the map. No!
Sorry.
Whoa.
He says, hey,
we're-
hearing you guys discussing if Rio or Cloud received an amiibo made me think of a game. As someone who owns all the amiibos, even I struggle to remember who did and did not get a figure. Game is quite simple. Just answer yes or no if the character has an amiibo or not.
Oh, I'm going to be terrible at this one.
Goomba.
No.
Yeah.
Reeves?
I'm gonna say yeah.
Yes.
I'm just going to stay out of this. I don't
You need to be in it.
I don't know.
In it
I
right
don't know
now.
any of these amiibos.
Dixie Kong. Amiibo?
Ooh.
No.
No.
Didn't they have one? Yes.
No, they did not. Sorry, Jeff Cork. I'm sorry. Turn Jeff Cork's mic off. That's the penalty for losing. So Dan is also his mic's
Yeah,
off.
mic's off.
Yeah.
Oh. gonna
Okay.
go quick.
Captain Toad. Do they have an amiibo?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I'm not messing around, Leo. I know you're playing your phone games. Kill these mics. Okay, great. Captain Toad. Does he have an amiibo? Yes.
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, Ben Reeves. He does not. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, we're all
okay,
dead.
So Reeves' mic is off. Okay, panel. Hammer Bro, is there an amiibo? Yes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The answer is no.
Oh, no, again.
Oh. Oh, wait a minute. No, I thought it was yes, so I think my mic's off now too. I don't know how that works. Okay, anyways, back to basics. Birdo.
Yes.
No.
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 Boo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Chibi Robo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Shy Guy.
Yes.
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 No.
That's criminal that he doesn't have one.
Waddle Dee.
Who?
Waddle Dee
Yeah.
from
No.
Kirby.
No.
No.
Yes.
Who the hell is Waddle Dee?
Great Jagras.
No.
No.
Great.
One-eyed Rathalos.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Poochie.
Yes. I think.
No.
Dante?
No.
Yes. There we go.
You know, remember when we were talking
It
about
was-
bad Nintendo games earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we found one.
Okay, real quick, what do you guys think about this? Do
Yeah.
you like it?
Do I like what?
I didn't list this person's name.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Okay, we'll skip it for now. So we're doing discredit
no.
them. They're very good. Okay, here. This is Abe from Bloomington, Indiana, and I have a little game that could be fun. Sounds simple.
Some real jigsaws in our
Yeah, seriously.
midst.
Okay, here we go. I'll give you 2 titles of a game from a popular franchise. You simply have to say which one released first. All right, let's go around the
This is
horn on
gonna be
this too, so it's
complicated.
more focused, right?
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I think this game's simple, but prove
Yeah?
me wrong.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys to
We'll
mess
see.
this up. Dantak, which came out first? Deus Ex Mankind Divided or Deus Ex Human Revolution?
Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Incorrect. Human Revolution was first
Cool.
from 2011. Ben Reeves, Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time or Ratchet & Clank Quest for Booty?
Ooh. Quest for Booty?
Yep, 2008. Great job. Jeff Cork.
Mm-hmm.
Tomb Raider The Last Revelation or Tomb Raider The Angel of Darkness?
Oh, Angel of Darkness first, right?
Last Revelation, which I think was kind of the fourth one, that is 1999.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Dantak, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time or Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga?
Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
There we go, 2003. Bingo. Let's see. Ben Reeves, Tetris 64 or Tetrisphere?
Tetrisphere?
Correct, 1997. Cork. I think it was on a Donkey video on YouTube. I had no idea about the dumb Tetris sequels like Hatris.
Oh, Weltris. There were so many. They
Yes.
would not stop.
What is Hatris?
Facetris.
Hatris is like Tetris, but like hats come and you have to match the different like top hat and like a bonnet. and
weird.
stuff.
Look at the other games that Paginov made because they're insane.
Oh,
Out
this is
of
made,
control.
made by the same guy?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy.
They're trying to cash
Okay.
in on him specifically. Okay, let's see. Jeff Cork,
Yes, sir.
you like Metal Gear, right?
I can't stop thinking about it.
All right, which game came out first?
no.
Metal Gear Acid or Metal Gear Portable Ops?
Portable Ops, wasn't it?
Metal Gear Acid, 2004. Dantak, you're a big Mortal Kombat guy.
No, this is
No, I'm not.
humiliating.
Mortal Kombat Special Ops or Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero?
Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero.
There we go, 1997. All right, Ben Reeves, last one.
Thank God.
Madden NFL 13
Oh, God.
or Madden NFL 25?
Oh no.
It's a trick one.
This is interesting. So it'd be like the 25th anniversary, I
Yeah,
assume.
it's the 25th anniversary. As they say.
The 25, then that's adamantium, I think. I'm going to go with 25.
Sorry, Madden NFL 13, which
Really?
came out in 2012. Yeah. Everybody tried. Hey, thanks for the game.
Yeah, it super sucked.
They're April Bloomington. It's very humiliating. That's fun. What do you guys like for email of the week?
The cancer survivor.
Wow.
Thinking about
what
what you
was
do
this?
with your last.
Last day?
I may
I was
not
going to say that, too.
I may
you be
not
the-
have. I may not have had fun with that, but
Yeah.
it was a very interesting question.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're giving it to him for the question or for having beat cancer?
Oh, no,
like a
for the
champ?
question.
It's a total package.
Total package.
Yeah, it really is.
And where is he from?
Hang on. I'm not willing to give him to it yet here.
Having
I
to
like
think
the-
about what entertainment I'd want to consume before I die in a day.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that's
it's not what you're consuming, it's what you're missing.
right.
Right. I like the not fun Nintendo game question. But Dantak's giving me a look like I
good.
can't
That's all
say
right.
no to a cancer survivor.
No, I think that was the other. Forget the cancer survivor angle of it. It's
Okay.
a more interesting question. I
All
think.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And oh boy, here we go. This is Jeff Jeff Wiktowski from Tonawanda, New York. Congratulations, Tonawanda. I can't wait to learn a lot about you, baby. Up on the big board. Thank you so much. Podcastingm4.com. Please write in the future. As for now, let's go back in time and learn about the development of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1.
Oh, God.
Ready for this?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Keith, Aaron, Allison, welcome to the Game Informer Show, folks.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Yeah, it's rare to have a whole batch of folks. Oh, Ben Reeves is here too, by the way.
Yeah.
He just won't leave.
I worked on the game, so you can't leave.
But it's rare to have a batch of developers on, but it's nice to have the three of you to kind of unpack your old era at Raven and working on Ultimate Alliance 1. It's a fun thing to talk about, so thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Where are you calling from?
We're in lovely Madison, Wisconsin, where Raven is still located to this day. We cleared a pasture of cows. We snaked an extension cord out and started making games.
Are the three of you still working together?
No, actually, so Allison and I worked together. So I left Raven 7 years ago and started a company called Flipfly with my brother Forrest. And Allison joined us
2 years
ago. 2 years ago.
Okay.
So Allison and I work together at Flipfly, and that's the office we're in now.
Okay, nice. And you guys made Race the Sun, Absolute Drift, stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw you have a new game called Cats Fly Helicopters, which is a very good title.
Thanks. Yeah, still in progress.
It's mysterious. Ask them what it's about.
You would never expect it. And Keith, where are you at these days?
So I also am in Madison. I've been doing independent consulting since 2010, predominantly in video games, but also with other tech organizations. So I talk a lot about leadership and building healthy cultures.
Right on. So I think Reeves and I, we both felt a kinship with Raven Software over there, just because we're in Minnesota with Game Informer, and it's so rare to have a studio that has worked on so many different IPs and so many different games just over there in Madison, Wisconsin. It's just mind-boggling. What's the state of the game development scene in Madison right now?
We were just talking about that. Tell them about all the stuff you're sharing with me.
You know, I think it's growing slowly, and lots of small groups are kind of congealing and coming together. So I started a meetup a few years ago called Madison Indies, just to help the indie developers like us, come out of the woodwork and meet each other.
There's been a series of arcade nights for indie games that have been going on for a year. There's been 4 or 5 different nights where people just get together and show off their games in a bar. Mm-hmm. That's been really cool. There's been lots of different meetups. There's also the MDev conference that's happened 2 years now, which gets together a bunch of game developers from all over the Midwest to talk about game development.
There's also several studios that have formed in the last few years. So PUBG has an office here now.
Yeah, that's right.
Epic has them.
Yeah, we've got PUBG and Fortnite.
Sure.
Yeah.
Pretty much solely created within Madison. I don't know if you're aware of
That's
that.
crazy. Does it feel like Raven's not the big dog anymore, or are they still kind of
Well, they
everybody
still
wants to
have
work
the
there.
largest population under one roof of game developers. They got to be 200 people now or something.
Right.
But as far as the rest of the community, since, I don't know, the past 8 years or so, it has, I would say, significantly grown.
Yeah. Human Head is still doing really well here. They've got Rune in the works. So.
Yeah, they had Quiet Man last year, which was a bizarre game to come out, period. But it's cool that, hey, that was made in Madison, Wisconsin. How much has PUBG and PUBG choosing Madison for that location kind of changed the game industry out there?
I wouldn't say it's changed a lot. I mean, they I think many people, artists, and they kind of just do their own thing. So they're just part of the ecosystem here, I guess.
Okay.
They're not hiring all the Raven people or anything like that. But.
Sure.
Oh, and we totally forgot about Per Blue too.
Yeah.
It's huge mobile doing Disney IP right now.
Yeah.
They're probably the second largest studio in town, I would say now.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, they were
crazy.
formed by some former college students here in town many, many years ago. And not too long ago, they sold an IP for umpteen $1 million.
Yeah, free-to-play mobile stuff.
So they're growing, bunch of sharp folks over there. So, yeah, pretty good scene, really.
That's wild. Okay, let's go back in time now. Okay, Raven. When did everybody start working at Raven? What era was this?
What were your first projects, too? I'm curious about that.
Ooh. Okay, so we'll go as far back as possible. So I started in January of '99.
Oh, wow.
And I worked on Soldier of Fortune, which is a fantastically disturbing military-inspired title that was very briefly banned from sale in British Columbia. That's a resume highlight.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That was the one with all the
crazy
crazy animations too. Like they're really like the crazy elaborate death animations for every character, right?
A lot of deaths. Big on the deaths at that point in time.
All right.
Yep, a lot of dismemberment, a lot of death.
Perfect. All right. And that was your first project there.
Yep, exactly so. And so then shortly thereafter, the company had previously just done PC development, and we started doing multi-platform console development back with, first X-Men was GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox Classic. And so that was a very interesting time. We went from I remember on Soldier of Fortune, we had a team of 25 people, and we thought the world was ending because we had no idea how we could have so many developers on one title. And then we wound up with, I think, 90 working on X-Men Legends. And so shortly thereafter, we had a ton of folks. And I think that's when, somewhere in there was when you folks came in.
Yeah, I think I started in 2004. So I came on during X-Men Legends 2. About 2/3 of the way through, or halfway through development of that title. So that was the precursor to Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah. And then what about you, Allison?
Yeah. I came on in 2003, so I got the last year of X-Men Legends, and I, had to do a lot of Xbox certification stuff. So that was my role on that project, was Xbox.
Yeah.
Make it work.
That sounds like a hoot.
When did you guys first learn that you were going to have access to the Marvel license? Like, was that a long period of discussion?
I know that early days, and probably throughout development, I think the interface between the licensor and Activision, and then getting down to us on the leaf nodes of the org chart, there was a good level of abstraction, where it would kind of be by the time we found out that we had an art Bible and whatever else, talks had been going on for weeks, if not months. And then it would just sort of filter down to us on the floor. Oh, we're making a Marvel game. That's cool.
That'll do, yeah.
Wait, so what was in that art book then?
Oh, that's classified. No, I don't do art personally. When I draw circles, they have corners, so I don't know if that's something that you were ever exposed to.
No, I never saw the art book.
Do you remember like day one of Ultimate Alliance 1, like the first rumblings of that project happening in the studio?
I do remember that because I remember it was a company meeting where we had just wrapped up, or we were just wrapping up X-Men Legends 2, and somebody said, so the next game is going to be, at the time it was going to be called Marvel Legends, and it was like, it's just like X-Men Legends, but we get to use like all the Marvel characters. And I remember Jeff Butler, who's a concept artist and like he came from the comic book industry. He just like started jumping up and down and cheering because I was like, yes, this is the best thing ever. So
Raven was traditionally very art-centric studio and employed a lot of folks for former comic artists and these sorts of. So when we started doing Marvel titles, there was no absence of excitement and passion in evidence.
Right.
Oh wow! And then for you guys, the specific roles, like what was? Do you remember step one for making Ultimate Alliance from your perspectives out there?
I think step one was copy and paste the code from X-Men Legends 2.
Yeah, rename the executable.
Yeah,
was the first step.
I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, so really we just modding X-Men Legends 2. Eventually, it's a new game. You know, that's really kind of how we built those games. So.
That's insane to say.
Yeah, and I wasn't on X-Men Legends 2. I was on Quake 4 for the time when X-Men Legends 2 was happening. So I came back to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and they were like, here's all the network code that got written by somebody else at a different studio, and it's your problem now.
Good luck.
So I was like,
my
great.
God.
Because I had just done multiplayer for Quake 4 on Xbox One. So then they were like, here you go.
Oh my! I think those games, like I looked at it and like they're almost a year apart in some cases. Like, did that feel just like an insane turnaround even at the time?
So I will say this. I think probably anyone involved in the Legends 2 MUA series would agree. we benefited from pretty much the perfect storm of really positive characteristics. We had a team that largely had been unchanged across 3 projects, that had worked together closely, all the passion in the world. Everybody was excited about the genre, about the characters. And we had, by that time, a comparatively stable code base. We knew what we were doing. And we kind of had driving tenets around, here are the 3 things we're allowed to change. Right? We're not going to go in and we're doing another sequel? Great. Everything's different. No. It was, we are changing this, and this. Other than that, it's just new content. Yeah. And I think that made stuff so much easier and really made it enjoyable that we didn't have to be reinventing a ton of wheels. Yeah. Is that safe to say?
They were, because they were short. I mean, Mua was how long of a development? It was
8 months.
5 days. I started late on a Monday.
Well, I mean, because I was pregnant for the entire project. And
oh my gosh.
Didn't have the baby until after it shipped, and
this is the units of time that we use in game development. How many pregnancies was that?
Well, no, there was somebody who had 2 kids during X-Men Legends.
See?
So
that's a brutal long development. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it was really smooth. It was, I think there was very little overtime work on that project.
I don't remember working any.
No one remembers doing any sort of overworked scenarios. Sure. I think going into X-Men 2, right? It was just, we're changing 3 things, do new heroes, go. Yeah. And then going into Mua, from my perspective anyway, it seemed like there was even less of a change as far as tech and what have you. It was just, by the way, you get to use every character ever. And let's just open it up in terms of content, the environments you can go in. So I just remember having fun.
I also think between the leadership team of you running the design team, and then Dan Edwards running the game programming team, and Dan Edwards is just really experienced software engineer, and then Dan Vondrak being an experienced game designer, and just everything from the pipeline to the tools was so good that we had we scheduled out 2 weeks for each hero. We had 24 playable heroes, and we had 2 weeks to start to finish with each one. And we had this pipeline of okay, here's the art team. They're going to hand it to me. I'm going to implement the hero moves and then hand them off to the effects and sound artists, and they know what they're doing. But everything about that whole design was just set when we got there. So it was smooth.
It's crazy.
The ideal behind game development, right, is we have this prototype phase, the pre-production phase. And then you say, all right, we know how to make one of everything. Now just go make all of the things, right? That's the theory. That's kind of what we did on the first 2 Marvel games, was we did all of that. And then it was just great, go make all the things for Mua. That's how I felt. How did it feel from the tech standpoint, though?
Yeah, from the tech standpoint, it was even pretty smooth. And we even added, we shipped on Xbox One and PS3, which were both new platforms for that game, because I think the previous ones had just been Xbox, PS2, we might have dropped GameCube at some point. Right?
I know I dropped a GameCube at one point.
Well, the handle, I was asking for it.
It went pretty smooth. I mean, a lot of it was actually just waiting around for Sony to get stuff done for the PS3.
Oh, what was that like?
Well, we went to some conference for developers that was we're going to come out with all these great features, and then they didn't actually come out with them in time because it was a launch title. I'm pretty sure it was a PS3 launch title. And the PS3 version ended up shipping without voice support for multiplayer because they didn't get it done. Sony didn't get us the info on how to implement it in time, and we're like, well, I guess the PS2 version will have voice, but the PS3 won't.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's so bizarre.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, that was.
The other thing that went really well is Gil being the tech lead. Gil Gribb.
Yeah.
He was just really good at saying no to everybody all the time. And so, the art leads would come by, hey, can we get one more light? No.
Nope.
Sorry.
We're done. Were there any specific characters you guys were trying to get in, or that Marvel said you have to include this guy? He's going to be big in 5 years.
Everyone wanted Deadpool.
Yeah,
right?
everybody wanted Deadpool. Everybody wanted Hulk. We couldn't do Hulk either.
Yeah, licensing stuff.
We didn't. Yeah. And then at one point, weren't they trying to make us put in like Captain Europe? Europe.
Who's the
Captain Britain?
The moon guy, like the Marvel version.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I had never heard of him. They're like, Aaron, we need you to put Moon Knight in the game because somebody wants us.
Moon
I
Knight.
don't remember if Moon Knight was like a core part of the game or if that was a DLC or a special
No,
unlock.
I think he was core.
Yeah.
So it's Moon Knight. It's like Marvel's version of Batman.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Every third week, it was like somebody's Googling some obscure hero they've never heard of.
Yeah.
Captain Planet? Is that a Marvel? No.
It was really easy to fall down like a rabbit hole on Wikipedia, just like reading back history of all the Marvel stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we had dozens and dozens of comics that got sent to us. So there's just stacks of them.
Yeah.
So I can say this now that I don't work there anymore. I spent probably $10,000 of Activision's money where I was supposed to be doing work, just sitting around reading comics.
Well, that's research.
The character that came up a lot was Ryan Dans really wanted to get Howard the Duck.
Oh.
Ooh.
I don't remember if that ever happened or not.
That would have been cool.
An Easter egg or something.
How does it? So it seems like you guys actually have some say in what characters you want. At least it's not just Marvel sending a bullet point list and say, "Do this, you idiots." Is it a lot of discussions around the office of like, "Can we get this guy in?"
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it was more like we had pretty much creative control as long as they signed off on you guys are allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So there was never a point that I understood where it was like Marvel was dictating anything to us.
Sure.
It was
And
all,
my impression was that Raven and Marvel had a really good relationship too.
Yeah,
that
sure.
it was always just like Marvel really liked what Raven was doing. Raven would present these things and Marvel would just be like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it as a pretty different Marvel from the Marvel of today?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. There was no. I can remember. I think we were working on the beginning of MUA when somebody mentioned. So the company that we did a lot of the cinematic stuff with was called Blur, and somebody mentioned, and we love their work. Oh my gosh, top quality stuff. And somebody mentioned, yeah, they're talking about going with Blur and doing an Iron Man movie. And I think they're going to have Tom Cruise as Iron Man. And we were all just astonished at this idea. Oh, wow, a full-length Iron Man movie and Blur is going to do the scene. This is going to be amazing. So that gives you an inkling of how far back in time we were dealing with MUA compared to everything today as the MCU, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it would have been like 2005 or something like that when you guys were starting development on Marvel, or 2004 even?
It's crazy because the guys from Blur eventually went on and did Deadpool, too. Which is an interesting connection.
Doesn't surprise me. Super talented folks. We probably spent, I don't know, a third of our development money just paying them to do cinematics, and we were totally happy with it.
It must have been liberating. I know you don't know what it's like now, but it must have been kind of liberating to work with Marvel in kind of that pre-MCU era, where it's probably a little bit looser. Not that they're like, hey, anything goes, but I'd imagine like the amount of control and care they have to take with each character was just night and day compared to Marvel of today.
Yeah, there was, when we were working on X-Men Origins Wolverine, there was a lot more
different
control because it was related to the movie. Yeah. So then there was specification of like, this is what the plot has to be. Yeah, because this is what the movie plot is now.
Sure.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Make sure he looks exactly like Will.i.am. Yeah, it was more of that.
Oh.
But in the days of MUA, I think that we just kind of sold them on our expertise, and they clearly got the fact that we were excited and that so many people had deep comic backgrounds on the team. That I think they were like, we trust you, go crazy.
Nice.
One of the things I remember about those games is they were always kind of like goofy at times. I was definitely like silly, but I would say fun, which I liked. Was that like intentional? You're like, let's just like throw everything at the screen and see what sticks, kind of a thing?
You would have to ask Bob Love if that was intentional or not. None of us really know.
Our writer who laid out a lot of the initial groundwork for the story. But then also we would just find things randomly that worked really well and just go wild. I remember when Sean Campbell, one of our level designers, so it's a pulled back, largely isometric view, and he said, well, what if you pull the camera so far back that it seems like the background is two-dimensional, and then we make it like an old television game? Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, how long will that take you to prototype? Well, I did it over lunch. Okay, And that's how we wound up with the what Activision get Pitfall. With the Pitfall levels in there, where you've got Ghost Rider or whoever running around in Pitfall levels.
And as I recall, like the design process was something like a designer owned a level of the game, and they could just write up a design workbook or something and present it to the leads, and then you would sign off on that, and they'd get to make that.
Yeah. We had X number of environments that we wanted to do throughout the game, and those would largely be story driven. So they'd say, if you're going to do something in, there's got to be a sewer somewhere, and then you're going to do one in Murder World, and so we would just hand those off to the designers to do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And so when you go to Murder World, which is some wacky, bizarro theme park of death, why wouldn't you get thrown into an ancient Activision Pitfall level?
Yeah, why not? Makes perfect sense.
Do you remember?
There's something really special about having a team that's experienced enough and small enough that you can just give a chunk of the game to an individual, though. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a thing that's kind of lost in huge AAA development now, where it's like, if you're going to make a Call of Duty level, you have a team of 5 or 10 or 15 people working on one chunk of the game for 6 months, and you have to have like all these like managerial structure just to get things done. It was very much like, okay, Justin just owns this, and he's going to come back and show us what he made next week. And I think that's where the creativity really comes through.
Yeah. Keith, do you remember some specific things that you got in the game you're really happy about? Some specific details that you were pushing for?
So my role was largely superfluous. I'll just be straight up with
You're
that.
reading comics in the bathroom. We got that. Yeah.
We had this team of like 10 to 12 level designers that had been doing this stuff literally for years. And my primary responsibility was overseeing them, making sure they stuck to a schedule and that sort of thing. So it was really just, here are the environments, which ones do you folks want to work on? And my greatest joy came in seeing them do amazing work to schedule, and having somebody play one of their levels for the first time and having them laugh out loud or just have a ton of fun during development. That, personally, was the greatest success as far as I was concerned. The fact that people didn't have to work themselves to death to make a great game, they had fun doing it, and everybody loved the finished product.
Yeah, so going back to like the design of like X-Men Legends then, where maybe you kind of had to invent the workflow a little bit and kind of invent the blueprint to some extent. Do you remember those discussions and what games were referenced? Is it tough when you're making an action RPG not to just immediately reference Diablo 2, I guess would be at that time?
So Diablo was hugely important to us, where you're looking at an action RPG genre and you're like, okay, what's the most successful example you can draw from here? After Diablo, right? So that was what drove a lot of those decisions. But in the early days, I came on partway through the first Legends, so I wasn't privy to what happened there, but I do know it was grotesquely overscoped because we had no idea what we were doing with multi-platform development at the time. By the time we got to X-Men Legends 2, it was much better understood. We're not going to change much. We're keeping the same people, the same tech. We have a story, so these are the main beats. And I think at that point we were just sort of getting to hit our stride as a team. And so we were like, okay, sure, there's like an Egypt level. I get it. We can do Egypt. It wasn't until MUA that we were totally envisioning environments and we were coming up with gags and all these sorts of things. We could just run with it.
Yeah.
I know that first game, I don't know if you were a part of this, but like that first game opens and they sold it as like 4-player Diablo with X-Men. But you play single player for a while and then you can play 2-player and you don't unlock 4-player for like an hour or something. Do you remember the design decision behind that?
Happily, no, because I wouldn't want anyone to hang that one on me after the fact. But it made sense from a story perspective.
Sure.
Right, I get that. And it was new to all of us. Previously, what had we done? Single player and multiplayer. We'd never done co-op really to the same extent that we did for an action RPG. So there's a lot of learning, and we'll just put that under the learning column.
Yeah,
I wasn't on the project, but I suspect it had a lot to do with the fact that just like building a cooperative tutorial is really hard. Because like you're teaching somebody the game, and it's just so much easier to say, we're going to pop you into this dialogue and wait for you to do this action, and then we unlock the next door. And like making that work with 1 to 4 players. Just like anything with 1 to 4 players is really hard.
Sure.
But tutorials, especially like a special scenario in a game where things have to happen in this order, and I imagine it was just a crutch.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that
Go
makes
ahead and
sense.
ask a technical engineer just how easy it is to make a cooperative multiplayer networked experience.
Yeah, how much of a pain in the ass is that?
Yeah, that was fun. Yes.
She's blocked it up.
No, the thing was that the multiplayer, the online multiplayer in those games is actually like lockstep synchronized simulation, basically. So it's not like a first-person shooter where there's like a server and then clients that sort of report in. This is like everybody's has to do everything, all the calculations together. Otherwise, you desync. And so there was a lot of time spent like hunting through the code to make sure that there weren't any extra random number generator calls happening on one machine versus another machine. Like the worst bug we had going through the end of MUA was looking for this crash or this desync that would only happen if you were playing with people with different resolution screens.
Oh no.
And it turned out it was because on one of those like wide screens, somebody, if they were off on the edge and they did some kind of power and it kicked off a particle effect, it called the random number generator one more time than the people with the smaller screens. And then hours later, it could be that they'd be out of sync. And then they'd lose connection.
It just took 5 grown adults 45 minutes to set up a Skype call. So you tell me how difficult creating that game was.
Oh God, I can't remember. I can't imagine that. Do you guys do you remember like your favorite moment from the game's development overall? Is there one meeting or one discussion that stands out to you?
Any one single moment.
Most fun day?
Did any of the Marvel guys come to the studio and look at it? Did Stan Lee come and shake your hands?
Marvel came out once or twice, or
Probably. I think they kept them away from the folks, in the trenches. They didn't want to present a bad image. I would say, to me, some of the most noteworthy things occurred once we got the actual voice actors to record lines. Because frequently, we had some really big name folks doing some of the voices. And our writer, Bob Love, would go out and record them in the studio in LA. And invariably, he would ask them to do some special lines. I remember one time we had the guy who did Squidward on SpongeBob SquarePants wish somebody's son a happy birthday.
Oh, that's good.
That was cool.
That's always fun.
The guy who played Bender from Futurama.
Oh, yeah.
Joe DiMaggio.
Like, I think he'd have him insult various people from Recon, too, so that we get this roll of insults.
Yeah. Oh, and the Deadpool. Can I
yeah.
do the haiku? Remember the Oz haiku?
I don't remember the Oz.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had one of our level designers. His name is Oz. Fantastic guy. Loved him to death. And he had a penchant for haiku and for disliking broccoli. And somehow these two things had coalesced in his life, such that he had at one point in time written a haiku about broccoli and his opinion thereof. This made its way to the voice actor doing the lines for Deadpool. And so we actually got Deadpool recording a haiku by my good friend Oz. How did that go? I hate broccoli and think it totally sucks. Why is it not meat? And when you have somebody doing lines like that, those are standout moments.
Yeah.
Breaking the fourth wall
That's
into
pretty
their
good.
office, which is a very weird thing.
I bet everybody who played the game was like, who's Oz? Like, is that a comic character? I don't know that one.
Deep cut.
Yeah.
Do you remember the reception when the game came out? What was that like?
I think people really liked
Yeah?
I think so. I was asleep.
it.
Okay. All right.
I
Naturally.
mean, I still occasionally, if I mention it on Twitter or something, people will be like, I loved that game!
Yeah.
So,
I feel like we didn't really appreciate just how much of a hit it was at first, But the thing you got to understand about game development is like there's a sort of like, I don't know if you call it like depression or something that happens when you actually like ship a game off, because it's you think of it like you finish the game and you put it out and then you just wait for the reception, but it's really this like rolling set of events where it's like, okay, we send this thing off to Microsoft, and a week later they get back, and okay, we got to fix some bugs, and then it's like, we're ready to be done with this, and we're fixing bugs, and then we got to submit it again, and then finally Microsoft signs off on it, and then Sony signs off on it, and Activision signs off on the PC version or whatever. It's just like this. It gets to be kind of a drag at the end, and so I think by the time it comes out, most of the team is just ready to like take a vacation and be done with it.
Right, right.
Sometimes we'll read reviews and stuff like that, but
if you ever see any videos online of, and here's the development team as their game goes gold, and they pan out and there are 50 people cheering, yeah! No, total crap has never happened in the history of ever.
Yeah.
That is not a thing. Yeah. What you have are a bunch of bedraggled people who have been put through a seemingly endless series of mentally and emotionally exhausting events at all hours of the day and night for weeks on end. And then when they're still waiting for the next apocalyptically bad thing to occur, someone says, oh, it went gold.
Oh, by the way, wait, we're done? Why are we here?
Yeah.
Well, that really
it's like the end of Ferris Bueller. It really is. You're still here?
Right.
Go home.
Yeah.
Were you guys so exhausted?
Usually by the time it goes gold, half the team has moved on to the next project.
Right. So it's usually like the tech programmers like me who would be, like just sort of waiting around being like, are they going to call me on a weekend? Am I going to have to go in and fix the PS3 build because it didn't pass cert? Or like, and then, you'll get an email that's like, nope, we passed this time. Hooray. Yeah. It'll be shipped.
Yeah.
I guess we're done now.
The only one that was really, really cool was X-Men Origins Wolverine. We passed cert on all 7 SKUs on the first try.
Really?
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Never been done in the history of Activision.
Me.
Excellent programming. Look at this.
Other people will claim credit. They lie.
I still put that on my resume.
That is impressive. I liked that game, by the way. Good job.
Yeah, bring us on again to talk about Wolverine.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that more of a pain in the ass overall?
It was a different pain.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Largely the same people. Everybody still loved the material. Still working with probably the same Marvel contacts.
For the attack.
Yeah, 87% of the gameplay was done by this person right here.
Really? That jump attack?
Yeah, we'll happily talk about that another time. So I will say that I remember one other thing about the response to Mua by game players. And these come out just randomly every now and then. It's not like you're walking down the street every day and people comment on the games you ship. But there was a client of mine that I worked with earlier in the year where I'd been working with them for several weeks before they emailed me at one point. It's on a Slack message, all caps. Wait, you worked on Mua? Right, it was just that kind of response. And then not too long ago, I was in a parent-teacher meeting at school where all of my son's teachers are gathered around the table, and one of them says, hey, by the way, did you work at Raven? Yes, I did. Did you work on Marvel Ultimate Alliance? Yes, I did. I played that game all the time in college. Oh, okay, that's good to know. I think I own shirts older than you, but that's still really, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's fun. Did you guys ever work on another Ultimate Alliance game? Or were you happy to have somebody else like kind of take over that franchise?
Tricky?
That's tough to say. There are probably things that, we'll have this gratuitously edited later, so Activision's legal department doesn't phone us up. But I think we all enjoyed everything that we worked on there, just on the whole Legends series there, that we probably felt there were more wacky things we could try. And if there was a character somewhere, like Major Maldives, I'm sure that's a character somewhere in the Marvel universe, that we were like, sure, get him in here. What's a superpower? So I think we probably would have been happy to do that for a while yet. And there was so little burnout associated with it.
Yeah, they were so smooth, the projects.
At the same time, I think we were ready to do something new after that point, at least on the game programming team, because it was like, it was it was an engine that was built for that game, but it was also like built just for that game. And so the moment you try to do something different, it was very constraining, so.
Right.
The Wolverine game, we moved on to the Unreal Engine, which is its own challenges, but it was also like really exciting from a technical point of view. Like, hey, we can actually make big open world environments now.
I think we would have been ready to make another game on Unreal in the X-Men or Marvel universe.
Had that opportunity presented itself.
Yes.
Which was a big maybe.
I'm not saying it did.
Got it. So is there any fraction of Ultimate Alliance 2 that is your guys' work? Was that game picked up by the other studio once you started development on 2?
They started with the code base from Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
They did, actually. I almost got shipped to that studio for a few months.
Oh, really?
Wow. Okay.
I was like, no.
Yes, please send me to Albany, New York in January. That'll be great.
Well,
I think there were emails exchanged, and I think they figured it out, and some phone calls and stuff. But it was, there was a point where they were like, Allison, they might need somebody for a few months.
Yeah. Months. You don't have family, do you?
I have a toddler,
that's not even a person yet.
Yeah,
really.
it doesn't count.
Come on.
So I do remember this, though, when they visited the office, when they were doing their pre-pro or whatever, and they sent their leads team to come talk with us. I remember they came in, and they had sheafs of printouts and graphs and charts about how they had overanalyzed the entirety of Ultimate Alliance. And I remember them sitting down with us on the level design team and with Vondrak, the project lead, and saying, so we thought it was fascinating how you so carefully crafted the acceleration of the difficulty of enemies, as you can see through these charts, throughout every level of the game, carefully adhering to this ratio of powers, and we're all nodding. We totally did that.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad you recognized our genius there.
That was some hard math.
Hey, just in general, what was Raven like as a studio in that era? How would you describe it, and maybe compare it to other studios if you have any point of comparison there?
Did you guys get sick of the hot tub parties? Is that
interesting?
Too many?
The thing is, it's like we're in the Midwest. I think there's probably a higher ratio of people with families working here, you know, and so most people who work at Raven have lives outside of the studio and really valued their family time. So you don't see a ton of people. I mean, there's still some people who, work late at night just because they want to or whatever, but for the most part, people tried to go home at a reasonable hour.
It kind of varied by team.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was on the Quake 4 team, and that was some younger folks who didn't have kids and family at home, and so the Marvel team was definitely more the family team, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think as a company as a whole, it was kind of a family, as you said, family-oriented company. We put babies born during projects in the credits, and it was a nice environment.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think a couple aspects of that. One of which is Raven is the big fish in the pond in this area. So it tends to be a little insular in that regard. There isn't really, or hadn't been at that time, a community to be part of. So it's sort of, you work at Raven, this is your world, right? So there was that aspect to it. But also, as Allison said, during that period of time, for many years, Raven was a 2 or 3 concurrent project studio. And so there would always be one that was sort of in pre-production, one that's tailing off, and then one that's in the thick of production. And as a result of that, you would tend to see very different scenarios from team to team at any given point in time. These folks are over here laughing it up because they're in pre-production and it's all cool concept art and whatever. These people are the ones that have been trying to ship a game for 18 weeks, and so they just look like they've been beaten with sticks. And then you had the Marvel team, which had largely been together for years and years and years, working on the same technology, just kind of perfecting our formula. And so we were sort of over here doing lots of fun stuff at really reasonable hours, not killing ourselves. Is a bit of survivor's guilt there, to be honest, because we'd be looking down the corridor going, wow, has that guy moved in the past day? I don't think he has. God. Someone should feed him. So those were some of the things that I remember working at Raven at the time.
Yeah, because I didn't work crunch on Marvel products, but that Quake 4 was, that
was brutal.
A lot of overtime.
Oh, God. What do you guys think about the current state of Raven and as a support team for Call of Duty?
I'm just really, personally, I think anytime a studio manages to survive as long as Raven has at that size, that's always super impressive. And I remember thinking when we worked on Singularity, just how messy it was and how inexperienced some of the team members were and some of the leads were and stuff. And now I look at Raven and it's like, man, is there anybody working at Raven who hasn't been there for 10 years? Yeah. You know, like they're just really a lot of senior people over there now. So.
And some people have gone back. I mean, they've left Raven for whatever reason and then gone back later. I know at least a few people have gone back.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, there are any number of things that you can pick apart about any game studio because the industry has its negative aspects, right? But if you look at the fact that you've got two brothers who, and this is 20, how many years ago? 30 years ago now? Two brothers who maxed out their credit cards, brought in a programmer who hadn't graduated yet from the local university and had a buddy of theirs do the audio and made a game when nobody was making games. I mean, not just in Wisconsin, nobody was making games.
Yeah.
And they got this thing published, started a company. It was the first internally owned studio by Activision, got purchased by Activision before they did dozens of others.
Yeah.
And they're still in business. And, oh, by the way, we're part of the Call of Duty business unit, making $1 billion every Christmas.
Yeah.
I think those folks can freaking drop the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
If you look at like the last few Call of Duties that they've been involved with, they're always very hush-hush about the parts of the games that they work on, and you know, Activision doesn't like people to talk about it because people pick it apart for whatever reasons, but like you can spot the things that Raven does, and you can see their DNA and things. It's like, oh yeah, I know that was a Justin Negretti sequence there, and stuff like that, because they've been working on this for how many years now, you know? So it's just like, you know, us working on MUA, the third game in the franchise, we knew what we were doing. Now they've been working on Call of Duty for 7 years, and they all know exactly what they're doing. So it's like they're just putting out really good stuff.
Yeah, I get the sense that it's comfortable there now, working on what they know. So
that's the crazy part, though. I don't know if it takes some Midwestern humility just to think about what a huge part that team has had in so many Call of Duty games, and never really a spotlight shown on them,
right?
Because it detracts from what is considered the A team, I suppose. And
they don't seem grumpy about it. You don't hear that.
I don't know where you would hear it, but you think at some point somebody would explode. You say, "Oh, please, we made 40% of that Call of Duty game. Please give us some goddamn respect around here."
Yeah, really quickly, let's just run down the list of every Call of Duty franchise installment that would have shipped in the past 10 years without Raven. Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I saw Raven's logo on a Call of Duty commercial. Like, you had seen franchise installment after installment where it was all Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, Treyarch, and you would never even see the Raven logo on an ad. And I was hurting for the people. This is after I left the company. I was hurting for all of the friends that are still working there. You know, they lose every summer.
Right.
Putting one of these installments out. You couldn't put their logo on the ad. So I'm glad that they are getting some of the recognition they deserve.
Yeah, they certainly deserve more. Aaron, did you work on some Call of Duty games then?
Yeah, I worked on Modern Warfare 3, and then I left during Ghosts.
Gotcha. What was that transition like in the studio then? Allison, were you there for that too?
Yeah, I worked on Black Ops.
Yeah.
Zombie mode. Nintendo Wii.
The Wii zombie mode. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I know both of you played that voraciously. So
we'll talk claim to fame.
It was great. We had to unload the menus, or we had to unload all the in-game assets just to load the menu assets, and then dump all the menu assets.
Slicing the levels in half, and then in half again.
The Wii does not have a lot of memory.
And the zapper, the gun, the peripheral. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, hell yeah. But what was that transition like to be within Raven then as they shifted over to Call of Duty support? Could you feel the vibe changing?
Yeah. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough time for the company because we'd had a lot of projects that hadn't made as much money as they needed to keep everybody there. We'd had one large layoff already before that point. There were projects that were being worked on that got canceled. So I think everybody did realize that it was like, okay, this shift has to happen or Raven's not going to be here.
Right.
So that was something. And then I was actually in the second round of layoffs. But
Same here. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
What was that day like?
You just knew that there just didn't need to be as many. There was 3 teams there before the first layoffs, and then you just knew there was more people than were needed.
Yeah.
So,
But you remember when they had the new CFO come and speak in the mocap studio?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they had the whole company come out, because rarely do we have a C-level executive. Well, they don't even know where Wisconsin is, much less do we have a studio there. But he came out, everybody's in the company, 100 some odd folks, and he made the comment at one point. This tells you how far back in the day this was. I think Uncharted had maybe just come out, the first one. And people were asking, when do we get to do more original IP and all these sorts of things? And this guy's job, CFO, is to maintain the books. He monitors cash flow. That's his job. And he said, okay, let me put this in perspective for you. Uncharted, yeah, everybody's nodding. Yeah, awesome game. Yeah. I wouldn't have greenlit that. Single-player game cost $40 million to make? No, we won't be doing anything like that. And everybody was just pretty much totally silent, like, okay, we get Activision's standpoint on this whole thing going forward.
Yeah.
It will be what is making money as opposed to what do we think would be cool.
Wow.
And that signaled a bit of a shift, I would say.
That's
I
wild.
think for me, like as far as the transition personally, it was, with the Marvel game, I think Marvel Ultimate Alliance, we peaked at 50 people on that team or something like that. As low as 30 at one point, I think. And so all of us had just a ton of responsibility and autonomy with what we were creating, So like, I owned 3/4 of the hero moves in that game, and I designed those and implemented them, And then we got pulled onto Call of Duty, where it was like, okay, we are one of 3
autonomy.
We are one of 3 companies working on this game, and the other 2 are in California, and we're like the C team, basically, And so it was just it was a hard transition for me, because it was like I went from working on stuff that I owned to being like one of the 10 people working on this one level of the game for like 2 months, and working on this section of the game that people are going to see for like 20 seconds and never play again, And so it was just I felt like I wasn't working on what I wanted to anymore, But at the same time, we have like, our friend Corey, the artist, who was just like, man, this is the best thing ever for him. Just like, he just gets to take environments and make them really pretty, and it can run at 60 frames a second, and it's a really optimized engine, so he can make it look really cool. And he's, as far as I know, he's still there working on Call of Duty.
Looks good on a resume.
That's cool.
So when that CFO is explaining the future of the company, is anybody raising their hand and saying, hey, you know what game would make money? Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Let's do that, please.
I think after the Uncharted comment, we were done with the Q&A. I don't think we had much reason to talk to this guy. He's the same planet, different worlds, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, something you got to understand is I think Moa sold 4 million copies, maybe 5 million over its lifetime total.
I bought 2.5 million myself, so I'm pretty sure the number's high.
And that includes like a bundle deal with an Xbox or something like that, So, like, as cool as that was for Raven, like it was our biggest success to date, that still pales in comparison to what a Call of Duty game makes. And so it's just the industry as a whole is kind of congealed around the big successes, and what looked like a huge hit 10 years ago is like total failure now, So
Were there ever any rumblings of a third game back then?
A third?
No.
Keith, come on. Blink twice if there are rumblings of a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
I am not under duress.
Somebody thought of it, right?
Well, maybe. Okay, you go right ahead, Allison. Allison, who does not fear the threats of legal departments. would like to
come
speak to
on.
something.
Allison, what do you got?
I don't know. I mean, people leaving, when we were no longer at Raven, there were people who were around and tried to start companies in the Madison area to do not Marvel necessarily, but hey, we have expertise in making adventure fighting games. But nothing ever really got congealed.
So the spiritual successor? That type of thing? Or
I mean, that was probably the dream, but it never really got past, just people meeting up and talking like, hey, we've got all the skills, we can do this.
Hello, DC, we're right over here.
Yeah. Well, and that was before, I mean, I wonder if it would be different now with Unity and Unreal more accessible if like people were making like if that skill set, not to make anything licensed, but
yeah, I mean, back at this time, the idea of using a game engine was kind of a different story. Right. There wasn't, you know, a race to the bottom between Unity and Unreal to get everyone on the planet to use their stuff.
Right.
It was, sure, you can absolutely use our engine. Please send the $1 million licensing fee to the following PO box. So, you know, having anybody break off from a significant development house and want to do something on their own was kind of an unlikely scenario.
Yeah. When did the three of you first hear about Ultimate Alliance 3? Nintendo's version.
2 months ago?
Yeah.
57 minutes.
What reaction do you have towards Marvel and Nintendo teaming up here with Team Ninja?
Yeah. Have you seen those trailers at all?
I think I watched one.
I don't use the internet.
Yeah.
Come on.
It looks like Mua, you know. It looks like they're sticking kind of to the formula, and that's pretty cool. Like, it's always cool when, I don't know, it's a good feeling to see something that we made. What was this, 11 years ago now?
Yeah.
And to have people still look at that as like the canonical, you know, thing.
Well, it's a testament, right? So, it's a testament to we figured something out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lark.
They still have like the self shading with the outlines and all that stuff. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I still see that Raven style, I guess.
I do remember when we first got that in the engine. When Chris Peterson did that, like over the weekends. What if you flip the normals? So I don't know. So for the longest time, people said that Legends was cell shaded rendering because they didn't know what else to call it. And originally it wasn't. It wasn't anything special. We had a 3D environment with 3D models in it. But we had a particularly fantastic artist at the time, Chris Peterson. Got to throw his name out because he basically came up with this just amazingly simple but visually awesome technique of kind of double rendering the character model, and the outer shell was flipped around and black, and so it just lined the comic. And that's what made people say, oh, it's cell shaded. That's astonishing. Good job to you, Raven Software. And it was really just Chris did this thing over the weekend. We came in on Monday and went, holy crap. And the visual style was kind of just nailed for the remainder of the series. And I guess you still see elements of that.
Yeah. That's wild. Do a lot of other companies, when they're doing cell shading, just use that same technique? Or do you think that's a Raven secret here?
Everyone copied us.
Okay.
We did it first.
Okay.
We invented comic books, too. And the pen.
All right. Okay. Gotcha. I feel like we didn't focus much, Aaron, just on hero moves in particular. Is there a certain move in that game that was your favorite or you felt the most attached to?
My favorite by far was Captain America. Just because it's the funny thing about the game is like most of the moves are actually one of like 5 types. You know, you've got like your punch, your radial attack, your charge move where you smash through stuff, and then there's a few that kind of step out of that mold. So like, you know, Storm has her lightning bolts and stuff like that. Captain America was like, he has a shield throw where you throw the shield and then he kind of holds his hand out like this and tracks it, and you could steer the shield around the environment and like bounce it off of things. And like I said, we had like 2 weeks to work on these things. I might have fudged it a little bit and taken 3 weeks on that one because it was like, you know, just dealing with how do you deal with the shield bouncing off the environment, and what point do you have to like bring it back to the player that threw it and stuff like that. So I was really proud of that.
Wasn't there some weird Scarlet Witch stuff?
She could turn people into boxes or something, isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah, you could turn. You'd shoot a projectile at people, and there was like a 1 in 3 chance they'd turn into a crate, and then you could break the crate and get like health packs out or something like that.
Was that your touch?
No, it wasn't my idea. I implemented it, but it was somebody else's idea. I think it was just a designer said like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if, you know, you could turn into people into a crate or like drop a.
Wouldn't it be funny if
drop a 5-ton weight in their head from the sky or something like that? Or
whose idea was the competitive co-op? Like that
end game.
Competitive
co-op?
Yeah. So like at the end of each level, there would be those like.
Oh
bars.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
That got, when we were doing testing on multiplayer, that got, you know, like hotly contested. We got really competitive about it.
I firmly believe that.
We decided that Human Torch was like super cheap. Like it was awful because he smashed all the boxes with his area effect.
Not fair at all. Awesome.
That's cool.
Anything else you guys want to share from that era you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, no.
It was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
As many things as I could lament about the state of game development in a number of aspects, we got to do some really fun stuff with a great team of people, and we stayed together for years, and were given pretty much a dream opportunity by Raven, by Activision, by Marvel, to just stick together and do some great projects. Some sold better than others, but we put them all in boxes on time, and people like them. And I guess Team Ninja still thinks that some of the stuff we did was okay a decade later.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that seems all right. Congratulations, you guys.
Good job.
Thanks for Skyping in and reflecting with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us down memory lane with
Oh,
you.
man. Anytime. We'll do it again for Wolverine, do it again for your vision for Ultimate Alliance 2. We have so many different avenues to go down in the future.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.